It's another best ball try draft-a-lon here on the Splash Play channel. We'll be hitting Underdog's Best Ball Mania today. DraftKings Millionaire Drafters Main Event Championship in total, competing for $4.5 million in prizes today. I'm all in a draft room here, and I've got to heal myself because Marshawn Lloyd groin injury is the news that came out right before the stream. So I'll see what happens with him. It was a non-contact injury as well, even though he did get late hit by a guy, Nate Hobbs, who the Packers actually gave a sourced quote to The Athletic the day before about how he's been hitting a little bit dirty at camp. Initially, I was like, I'm ready to blame this guy for ruining Marshawn Lloyd again. But no, in fact, Marshawn Lloyd, it's his own groin that gave out. Right before that. So that was a tough news item before the show. That's why you get my skeptical face here for Marshawn Lloyd. But seems like it won't be a long-term injury. I hope he stayed in the field after the injury yesterday. He was kneeling. But Marshawn Lloyd, I feel like for me, matters a lot more than he does for the rest of the general public who cares about best ball this time of year. So that's where we are with my 20% owned Marshawn Lloyd. And this is draft number 101 for you today in Best Ball Mania. So let's see. We can get going. Of course, presented by Drafters. As always, $100 deposit match at drafters.com. Be drafting on the last leg of our journey today on stream on there. Total points format, full point PPR, competing for $500K up top. Of course, Best Ball Mania, $2 million to first place here. So that's what we're going to get off the docket first. So we can see where some injuries are affecting things. Right now, I guess the round one injuries that are looming over us. Justin Jefferson had the little hamstring pull for himself. He's week to week, according to the reports out there, but people are panicking about that. As a result, he's falling in rooms right now after reliably going at the 2 spot. Frankly, more than I would have thought in this time of year, where I kind of figured Saquon Barkley would make the rise, kind of figured Bijan, maybe people talk themselves into him. A big Athletic article talking about how he's trying to get better at the long run plays that felt like Saquon had last year, that Bijan himself, or Bijan, I think they're supposed to pronounce the name. Bijan himself didn't have those long runs much last year. Part of what he's been training for this offseason has been trying to build up those long runs. Kind of thought he could surge up to 2, but it seems like at this point, CeeDee Lamb going 2 in this room, and I've seen him go 2 a lot. A lot of CeeDee Lamb hype, a lot of Cowboys hype, which I'm not fully aligned with, but certainly I get getting some of them. Lamb and Pickens both at this point, both seemingly becoming hot commodities right now in draft rooms. Got a pick coming up here, though. Another injury that occurred today. Malik Neighbors hurt his shoulder. Shoulder injuries for receivers tend to not matter a ton as long as the guy's kind of embedded in the roster because they can still keep their cardio going, all of that. But Neighbors goes, so we won't get him here. Drake London having a good camp. I do want to get more shares of him as we go. So I'm going to go grab him here, reach up and get him. Ashton Jeanty here, getting the workload we expect in camp. He's talking up his pass game role. Brian Thomas, a guy I've not taken a ton of. Certainly Travis Hunter being involved in the offense a little bit less so far in camp might make Brian Thomas more interesting. I will just go Jeanty here. Drake London and Jeanty, I don't know is a necessarily unique pairing. Certainly you can grab it if you wanted to at the turn here, but for me, a lot of times taking Derrick Henry, taking Devon Achane at the turn, getting Jeanty here at this time. Certainly don't want to be under the field on him, even though I do think Henry, Achane, much more obvious projection plays above Jeanty. But Achane, I guess one thing that maybe is worth bringing up, Alexander Mattison is on the Dolphins roster, which you might not know, might not care about. People more psyched for the Ollie Gordon types, Jalen Wright in year 2. Madison's having apparently a really good camp. All the beat reporters keep talking about how great he's been. There was some Athletic article, I don't know who the Dolphins beat reporter is. They were talking about like how, basically they were at camp, saw Alexander Mattison. We're talking to another beat reporter about how good he's been in camp. Right as they're talking about him, he makes another big run up the middle that they're both impressed by. Again, I don't think that matters for Devon Achane too much, but Madison might steal some touches, which is fucking stupid, but that's how football goes. Shout out to chat. Appreciate all you guys being here. We got our hey-heys from guys like Tyler. Tyler, not a member. And what are we doing, Emo Cowboy? You've given me so much money. Why not continue to do it? Got some GMs here. We got our guy Chunk here. Got Dwayne here. Jack here. Glad to see all you guys tuning in live or after the fact as well. Of course, try draft-a-lons here where I'm doing the only one of the biz right now, doing an Underdog Best Ball Mania, DraftKings Millionaire, Drafters Main Event Championship. I do them all in a row here on Tuesdays and Fridays, about 12 p.m. Eastern on those days. So tune in here. I'll also be doing my stochastic stream at 3 p.m. today and trying to squeeze in the WWE Netflix show because I'm still a wrestling dork at heart. And even though I worked behind the scenes at WWE, my first job out of college was as a publicity coordinator there. Was watching that this morning. It's fun to see the guys talking about the business. It's always it's gotten my rocks off. Metaphorically speaking, not literally speaking. Other news items at this point, Tyreek, and really not a lot up top for these guys. Thankfully, I guess not a lot of big injuries here. Oh, cut back into your attempts across the board to retire early. Oh, there we go. Okay. Hey, no, I just don't want you to lose the Discord access. That's the main thing for me because Tyler provides content in the Discord. So please For love, because I'm not giving it to you for free. But shout out Tyler here. I get it. I know you're going through your job, searching for some job opportunities, perhaps. So I get it. But not things we need to talk about in a stream. But I appreciate you, Tyler, no matter what. Just observations. We got this guy here going 0 RB with the Jefferson, Tyreek Hill, Marvin Harrison start. Probably a start you still could have gotten before, given Tyreek's ADP, Harrison's ADP, and Jefferson going 2 to 5 enough. But maybe for this guy feels unique. He couldn't resist it. I don't know. Not seeing any terribly fun builds. Marion Hampton now reliably going top 30 at this point. A player that I'm excited by, but hate that the price is like fully the ceiling outcome for him, it feels like. And really, he could be great in year one. He could certainly pay off an ADP, I think, similar to Jeanty. But I don't want to pay that price tag for Hampton. Like I would love to pay a 50s price tag for him. We're not going to get that anymore. We got Breece Hall coming back here if you want to add another RB. We got Rashee Rice, who we don't want to take at this point either. Mike Evans, a player that I do like a good amount. Really nothing Ramsey here. We'd even get Kyron Williams back. I will take the Breece Hall share. Again, prop me up in the early season a little bit more with Jeanty, perhaps starting a little bit slower just because of the rookie ramp up. Mike Evans here, Xavier Worthy here, George Kittle here, Jaden Daniels here. All players I like in different ways. I think I got to go Mike Evans. I feel like everybody right now is pricing in the Chris Godwin uncertainty / the current injury that he has going, where he's had the dislocated ankle, had to get a second surgery in the spring. People didn't know about that. They're panicking about Chris Godwin. Everybody's pumping up Igbuka, and I get Igbuka's had some good camp reports. Kind of, to be totally honest, to me, they sound very similar to what Jalen McMillan got last year, where, whoa, what a route runner this guy is. Whoa, you can move him everywhere. McMillan ended up playing fairly well down the stretch, I would say, relative to definitely how he played at the beginning of the year, but the beginning of the year missed some opportunities, kind of got shunted down the depth chart as a result. I still think McMillan lurks to do very similar things to Igbuka. I still think Igbuka is going to be mostly a slot forward player, but I think nobody's really pricing in, like, again, Igbuka's soaring to top 80 pick at this point. Nobody's going Mike Evans to get any steam here, and Mike Evans is the one who really did benefit last year from Godwin going out. Certainly McMillan got more routes. You can extrapolate that Igbuka gets more opportunity if Chris Godwin does have a delayed recovery, or if he comes in, gets hurt again, something like that. But Mike Evans at pick 37, I don't think is pricing in that opportunity at all either. So I'm happy to get Mike Evans here, second receiver off the board alongside Drake London with the Jeanty, Breece Hall start. And really both guys, not two of my favorite RB picks in the first 4 rounds, but I think the price is right enough for both of them, in particular getting Breece Hall right after Kyron Williams and Marion Hampton. That's where we are right now. Other new stuff floating around right now, and unfortunately, I feel like it's all my highest exposed guys, which is a lesson in itself that I've talked about, that I know for myself. Why, when you see people on Twitter bragging about finishing 150 entries, whether it's on DraftKings, on Underdog's Best Ball Mania, not normally what you want to do this time of year, because this is when the injuries start to pile up. And even stuff that doesn't matter, like Darnell Mooney's shoulder injury, going to keep him sidelined a few weeks. But they've talked about it's not going to affect his opportunity. But people see that. People see DJ Chark signing there. They start to knock Darnell Mooney down because he's got a shoulder injury right now. He's not in practice. They're not hearing about how great he is. They're not seeing Twitter highlights of him making stellar catches. But Mooney's a guy I've had a lot of exposure to because I like the price for him. Now the price is getting even cheaper, and I kind of have to decide, do I want to really continue to make Mooney a 20% stand, a 25% stand, or do I want to start to ramp him back down even though the price tag is so much cheaper? Same thing for Joe Mixon, who has this foot injury that's dragging on. Wasn't a physically unable to participate injury where it wasn't on the football field. They've got it listed as a non-football injury, which is kind of odd in itself. But I still assume it's a nothing burger for Joe Mixon starting in week 1, because that's just kind of been the player he's been. There's some guys that are always injured and play through it. There's some guys that are always injured and don't play through it. Mixon has been a bit more of the former throughout his career. And certainly had, the workouts as well, where he's been not in practice throughout time periods because he's so hurt, but he keeps showing up every single game. That's what I expect from Mixon again here. But right now the price tag is falling 90s in some rooms is what I've seen. I still think Mixon's a good click, but what's your appetite for risk? Do you want to absorb him on the way down? Is sort of a personal question. We've got a couple of receivers that are okay with here. Chris Olave, feel like Shaheed's getting a little bit more camp buzz right now for New Orleans. And it does seem like you might not see Tyler Shucks starting the year because Spencer Rattler's been outplaying him so far. We'll see how that works out. RJ Harvey, Travion Henderson, neither player excites me too much. Juwan Jennings has a calf injury. I'm not too worried about it. Jordan Addison, we still haven't gotten the suspension news for him. I am going to go Juwan Jennings here. Still believe in him. Wide receiver 4, Juwan Jennings feels like a nice price tag. And you can flip these as well. Jennings at 3, Olave at 4. Same difference to me. I like the room and how it's coming together, but Definitely a different mix of players than I'm getting normally. So Ashton Jeanty, Breece Hall at RB. At receiver, Drake London, no Rams bringbacks, which is definitely a thing I try to prioritize when I do have Atlanta players, because Atlanta Rams, I think, has a pretty good shot of being a Week 17 outlier game. Mike Evans, Chris Olave, Juwan Jennings here. So no QBs in yet, no tight ends in yet, but nothing out of the norm for me. Taking Mixon 3 straight times, 78 to 85. Gonna chill. It feels so good. I mean, that's the thing is like for him, and this is a thing that came out this morning, which I think we've already talked about. We've kind of known based on the ADPs. Aaron Jones and Jordan Mason are gonna be in a split backfield. So those are 2 guys you have right now. You'll go into that 80 to 90 range. You're talking about Joe Mixon, a guy who last year had, at certain points of the year, 25 and 10 touches a game throughout the entire year, about 20 and 10 touches a game when accounting for his injuries. The numerous times they would take him out at the goal line because he was gassed. They'd bring in Cam Akers. They'd bring in Darian Gubawale. That was something for Joe Mixon. Even with those situations, still had, a bell cow workload. But the guys in that 80 pick range, 80 to 90 range, 100 range, if Mixon falls there in rooms, they don't have that 25 carry upside. They don't have the 4 red zone opportunities where even if the guy is failing, you just keep hammering it in. It's a new play caller there, new OC there. So it's something that certainly, expect exactly to be the same thing, given that Bobby Slowick was kind of, called a donkey last year for how he handled the run game and kind of, I would say, stubbornly kept pushing the run game at times where you want to have CJ Stroud, cooking a little bit. Still a team that I expect for the most part, bringing in, run forward. I think play caller Nick Caley is what we're assuming is going to be the case there. Bringing hopefully the best parts of the Rams run game, that straightforward stuff. Kyron Williams is not a big east-west runner. He's mostly a guy that's not avoiding tackles, just kind of making the most out of what's there. I would hope that for how that works out for Joe Mixon, it would be him getting maybe 20 touches a game. Even if he gets 15 to 20 and they're more efficient, they're better, and they're still kind of the same, him hammering it into the goal line opportunities. I think it's the case for Joe Mixon. I think you'll see Nick Chubb get some of that work, but I think it's still Mixon being the lead there. So if you could get him in a range where there's really no other guys who are like potentially a lead back to that range, I would just keep scooping Joe Mixon. But I certainly, I tend to be a little more, we'll say diamond hands, I guess is the way that, you could say it in terms of being steady about your investments. But I really think like if Mixon's going to go so much later, you probably should just take him when he's available. And might have to test that in a moment here. Mixon right now, 68.9 ADP, so almost a very nice 69 ADP for him. Getting him at pick 84, I think it'd be hard to ignore. All right, so Mixon, of course, Mixon has to go to the pick right in front of me because that's showbiz. Right, we can take Mooney here, technically ahead of ADP. I'm still cool with the price tag. We do have this deep dipping moment for Aaron Jones and Jordan Mason, so let's take Brian Robinson out of this group here. Khalil Shakir after ADP. I think people a little bit spooked perhaps about Josh Palmer's ascendance there. Keon Coleman had a nice practice finally for the Bills as well, where I think he was at least borderline dominant. I am going to go Shakir. Would normally go with the Atlanta double at this point. But frankly, Mooney's been going in the 95 to 100 in a lot of the slow drafts I've been doing lately. I don't think he's going to come all the way back, but he's not properly valued for taking him at pick 84. I've been taking Mooney in the 80s for the entire BBM cycle. Really every draft, every platform, Mooney to me should be priced in the mid 80s and ADP. I'm not going to do that here though, because it's not his price right now for the market. So unfortunately, not going to grab Mooney here for the Atlanta double. But the team so far got ourselves 5 receivers through our top 90 picks. So I'd say head of the 8 ball there. 3 RBs, I think, have solid roles in Jeanty, Breece Hall, and Brian Robinson. Breece Hall had the quote recently that came out about him not being the coach in the front office's guy. It was a little bit of a misquote with that, where he was talking about basically like they didn't draft him, they didn't sign him. So they're just kind of inheriting him. That's why he's not surprised. He hasn't gotten a contract extension yet. I don't think it's a guarantee he gets a contract extension. And I think that could be part of what this year is for him, is that he's either auditioning for other opportunities or could fall out of favor with the Jets. I think they like Braylon Allen enough. They like Isaiah Davis, even though he's had some fumbling problems in camp so far. They like those guys, so I think Breece Hall comes with some downside risk. But at pick 38, I'm willing to swallow that here when I think there's a real tier break between him and James Cook. I feel like those 2 guys kind of put together. Everybody else I would have in front of them, and that's what we got the opportunity for today. But we got Jeanty, Breece Hall, Brian Robinson, a receiver, Drake London, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Juwan Jennings, a little bit of a value on Khalil Shakir. So not a terribly value-laden team yet. A little bit of value on Breece Hall, a little bit of value on Khalil Shakir. But that's about it so far. Let's see, other news items here. Keep hammering it in. That's what she said. That's, of course, got to get that in. Kill him, Chris. Got to rewatch. Got to go make some extra best ball money. All right, everybody's got to work. I get it here. Of course, I am here again Tuesdays and Fridays doing my draft-alons here. Going to add in some more sneaky streams as we go. Just couldn't pull off a weekend stream this week because we had some family stuff to deal with on Sunday morning. Besides that, though, on the grind here for best ball, of course, hitting all the platforms. As always the case, thanks to our friends at Drafters. Make sure to go check them out if you want to draft along with me on Drafters. Come play with me in the back half of this video here. We'll do the DraftKings Millionaire next. Drafters main event championship after that. So get your $100 deposit match at drafters.com, promo code SPLASH. And shout out, I think there's like 4 or 5 people that signed up last stream. I don't have the names in front of me, but maybe I'll pull them up later on. Shout out to you guys who do sign up for Drafters because, again, they're presenting the show. And the more you guys do check out that site that I've finished well on, only drafting teams on stream. It does support the show, but also for you guys out there, your money probably goes a little bit further. You guys know the deal on there. And sometimes you get weirdos being weird in chat, and I get to read them out loud, which was pretty fun on Friday. Shouts to Drafters for the promo this weekend. Yeah, they did have a promo over the weekend, as we talked about on Friday as well. Doing 5 drafts this past weekend got you a free entry. Same thing on there as well. When you're putting in your normal amount of drafts, you get free entry at 10 entries, free at 25, I think. You end up getting a bunch if you max it out in cash back as well. So good deals going on Drafters and DraftKings for that stuff. And Underdog, I think, did a promo as well where you had to put in like, 4 BBMs to get some promo cash. So they're doing something. Not doing a lot, but, they're doing something. Trey Harris got an accent on his name. Big update for him. Trey. So you don't say, like if you guys aren't familiar with other languages, like in Spanish in particular, the accent's supposed to be where you emphasize. In a 3-letter name with 1 vowel, I don't know that you need to emphasize Trey. Like what? I don't know what the accent's there for. But Trey Harris does have an accent on his name now. We got a 0-3-5-0 build here. Not really a spot where we need to think about QB because Brock Purdy already went. Unless we wanted to go up and get somebody. Baker Mayfield also gone as well. So those are 2 guys in this range I'd feel pretty comfortable taking. RB would like to add 1 more here. Scadaboo working with the first team. Tyrone Tracy. We got weird Jets correlation. I've said enough times. Do strongly believe that Garrett Wilson is the QB or the stack you want to pair up. You have Justin Fields as your QB. But Breece Hall been a guy who's going to get some PPR work, apparently, according to reports. So we'll take that shot. Pretty good camp steam for Evan Ingram as well. He doesn't really correlate. Shaheed would correlate. I'm going to go Ingram. I've not taken a ton of Ingram this year, mostly because the ADP is normally a spot where I'm grabbing a QB, grabbing that 4th or 5th receiver, grabbing that 4th, 5th running back, something like that. Really not taking a ton of Ingram, but Ingram, a lot of targets so far in camp, a lot of catch and run opportunities for him in camp so far. Cortland Sutton getting the big money there. He's going to be your priority receiver for sure. But I would say there's a pretty decent shot, and I like Marvin Mims. Decent shot that Evan Ingram ends up being the number 2 receiver for Denver this year and being a very reliable target for Bo Nix, who I think as he evolves, will take that check down option more frequently. We'll give Evan Ingram, runs a lot of horizontal breaking routes. We'll give him opportunities to get some catch and runs. So I think for Evan Ingram, we'll take the shot here. I don't think he makes a lot of sense with the build so far. But it's a 1-3-5-1. We got Justin Fields, Ashton Jeanty, Breece Hall, who is technically our stack partner for Justin Fields. Brian Robinson is our 3rd RB. Like the base so far, but certainly have to get more in at RB. At receiver, we have Drake London, Mike Evans, Chris Olave, Juwan Jennings, Khalil Shakir, and Evan Ingram. I think taking Shaheed was really the big temptation to get another New Orleans receiver, get that stack, and maybe not even take the QB with it. Because Tyler Shuck, I really thought was going to be a week 1 shoe-in. And I guess I shouldn't be surprised, given that I was kind of down on his college numbers last year from Louisville, where he wasn't terribly accurate. Would have thought a guy you're bringing in who's a little bit older with that much draft capital would be at the very least very accurate. He's not that. Also not a high EPA player, not really a great downfield thrower, not even a high volume downfield thrower. Really no traits for Shuck that I'm crazy about. So I shouldn't be surprised that Spencer Rattler is beating him out, I guess. But I really thought with him being a pick, with Shuck being a pick that Kellen Moore and the front office is coming together on for Kellen Moore's first year, really thought that Shuck would be a lock to start week 1. But Rattler, if he's greatly outperforming him, I shouldn't be surprised. And I guess Rattler maybe the one who starts. So definitely don't just take Tyler Shuck and assume he's going to give you points. If you're taking him, probably still has to be a 3 QB build. Shout out to the chat weirdos. Yes, shout out to the chat weirdos on Drafters, we're saying in particular. Definitely was a fun video on Friday. I don't really get to bust out my acting chops anymore and do dramatic line readings, but Guys feuding in a drafters chat. It's time to do it. Luther Burden, news item from him today, got yanked from practice because he fucked up on a play. Ben Johnson didn't like it. Might have been yesterday, but it was reported out this morning. Not a great thing for Luther Burden. You kind of expect that to happen. Also seeing DJ Moore get some backfield targets, which could theoretically go Luther Burden's way. I think not a great thing for him necessarily. All right, I think we got to go up and get Penix here. Just really like Penix a good amount. Pause. But I do think Michael Penix, good camp reports so far. Seems like he's finding Drake London a lot. Happy to get him here. Bashal Tutin, hamstring injury. Not the most exciting click at this point for me, if he ever was. Kyle Williams getting some red zone opportunities with Drake May. But I think I need an RB here. I'm going to go Ray Davis. Ray Davis here got some goal line work for Buffalo last year, even with James Cook. Having that 16 touchdown season with Cook and his holdout, who knows what his future is going to be with the Bills. I don't think they can afford to pay him the money that he wants. Maybe Ray Davis gets more involved this year. That'd be the hope if you're taking him at this point. And if nothing else, certainly good contingent value. Team so far is a 2-4-5-1. We have Justin Fields, Michael Penix at RB, Ashton Jeanty, Breece Hall, Brian Robinson, Ray Davis. A receiver, Drake London stacked up with Penix, Mike Evans, Chris Olave, Juwan Jennings, Khalil Shakir, and a tight end, Evan Ingram's correlated with nothing. So that's what that is. Trey Benson, another guy, and I'm just talking about guys that come up on the board. So hopefully you guys don't mind this approach for new stuff, because frankly, I'm not taking enough notes this year because I don't know. I was trying to do it initially. So I've talked about before, I want to do a video every morning breaking down news. I saw enough Twitter thread guys trying to do that as well. And frankly, like production wise, I couldn't figure out how to make it look good in a way where it was something I'd be proud of. So I'm going to pull back on that one for the year. But as a result, I kind of got caught in no man's land with my news document where I was taking like screen grabs of all the news items. So it's like, oh, here's a visual thing. It's like, I don't have to do that. I just have to take notes. So I'm not taking notes every day, which is definitely a change in my process from last year. I was doing it pretty diligently. But one thing that I would note if I were taking notes is Trey Benson. So there's a quote from Drew Petzing that came out. They asked basically directly about James Conner being a bell cow, and shout out to whatever beat reporters are asking, like very fantasy forward questions in these press conferences, but asked about the workload for Conner. Did they expect it to be the same this year? And basically Drew Petzing was like, yeah, it's gonna be the same. And throughout the offseason, Jonathan Gannon has said, I wanted there to be a timeshare between Trey Benson and James Conner. And Petzing basically said flat out, like, I don't expect it to look much different from last year. Game-to-game situations could be different. You could get more work for Trey Benson in a particular game if the environment kind of whatever that means, like maybe more passes. I don't know. Maybe if they're in the lead, you see more Trey Benson. I still think Trey Benson ends up carving some work away. But, for James Conner with where he's going, I think the coach speak was enough of a positive cosign to be like, all right, well, this is just going to be how it looks, that he's going to get, 18, 20 touches a game. Wouldn't shock me, though, if Conner gets closer to 15 in some spots. Be the main thing I would say. Spags, sorry about the Mixon snag. You're just hyping him too well for me, but not... Oh, it's fucking annoying that you can take Mixon. I've gotten more than enough Mixon at this point. Mixon and Lloyd are probably two guys I need to let get to more of a 16% range anyway. But sure. This is the joys. But this is why, guys, like literally this year for BBM after, whatever. Most of my things are not on stream because I literally lose EV by streaming every fucking day. It's the worst. It's unfair is what it is. It should be streamer mode where like you can't see the names in a room. Tyler Algier here gives us some more Atlanta correlation, which I'm okay with. We got no Bijan in this room, so that's fine with me overall. Another RB, no. Wide receiver, Jack Besh is not really my guy. Hunter Henry can be a bringback for the Jet stack we have, and I could live with that. I'm going to go Hunter Henry here. Don't think we need the third QB. I feel good enough about Fields and Penix. Certainly Bryce Young, Matthew Stafford, Cam Ward could prop up a room. But Stafford, we have no natural correlation, and we already have the QB from Week 17 for Michael Penix, obviously going against Stafford there. So really not a value in taking the QB from the same game. Cam Ward, I could have taken for the opposite side of New Orleans, but I don't think it's a must-have at this point. And there he goes anyway. So no Cam Ward for me. I can't believe I almost got a really nice value on Joe Mixon and then got nothing. Benson bags are fucked. I mean, I haven't been nuts about Benson, I don't think. I think it's like a 16% play for me. No, 13% for me in BBM for Benson. overall, actually, I've got 17%, including the puppies and small tournaments. So I do click a little bit more loosely on there. Yeah, for Benson, I'm not mad taking 12 to 16% anyway. It is still a really good contingent bet if he gets that James Conner role. And Benson did show enough in terms of efficiency last year, where he had a 21% avoided tackle rate, 0.01 EPA per rush, 0.5 EPA per pass. It's actually very good and wasn't a ton of volume for Trey Benson running only 3 routes a game. But when he did get a target, he was pretty useful with it. I think there's still opportunity for him to take over Connor's workload and end up being like a really, really strong back. So I think even if you had a lot of Benson, like as long as he's not contingent about it, you know, I mean, he's got to get some touches no matter what. But like as long as you're not relying on him for real production and he's just a contingent play, I think you'll be fine. But I still like Benson in that range. Like in this range, I guess here, him versus Bigsby, Garendo, Rashad White, who's definitely a guaranteed backup. Ray Davis going to get some work, guaranteed backup. I think Benson should be towards the back of these guys. But I don't want him behind Dylan Sampson, to be honest. I would still take Trey Benson over Dylan Sampson personally. Eckler is probably the one who's like a little bit too low here. Anyway, but you can see here some of these guys moving up. Anthony Richardson going 173 now. It seems like it's more of a coin toss whether he or Daniel Jones starts at this point. I thought it would have been Daniel Jones for sure, but he hasn't done enough to win the job. Anthony Richardson had like a perfect accuracy day the other day. Still really think the underlying numbers for him last year were concerning enough. I still wouldn't make a bet on either if I could avoid it. But, you know, they are cheap enough at this range. Going after Sam Darnold and Aaron Rodgers, you can take that shot. 27% Benson in his ADP. You don't need much to suck out. Usually my RB5. Yeah, that's fine. And instant karma because you app froze and you autoed Tua. Well, there you go. That's what happens. You take Joe Mixon, as I'm saying why he's still a good pick at his range. You deserve everything that comes your way. We got Brenton Strange here. Not a bad click, but I think he's actually a pretty nice little tight end 3. Mason Taylor be another option later on, but whatever. Adam Thielen here. Alec Pierce here. Thielen, it seems like the positive camp reports for Hunter Renfrow, maybe not great for Thielen, but I find it hard to believe that Thielen gets unseated when he's been Bryce Young's safety blankie for a few years. And that's going to be Ted McMillan over the course of time, but for right now, I think Adam Thielen is still our guy in terms of getting the reliable slot routes. So team so far is a 2-5-6-3 here in this BBM 22nd draft. Of course, getting it out of the way fast so we can hit the DraftKings Millionaire Maker. We got Justin Fields, Michael Penix as our 2 QBs. Probably be the only 2 QBs we take here. At RB, we have Ashton Jeanty, Breece Hall, Brian Robinson, Ray Davis, Tyler Algier. At receiver, Drake London, Mike Evans, Chris Olave, Juwan Jennings, Khalil Shakir, Adam Thielen. Then a tight end, 3 tight ends so far. Evan Ingram, Hunter Henry, Brenton Strange. I think maybe a 2 tight end room could work with these guys, but like Ingram, I just don't think is as solid of a click, which is probably a reason I don't take him at pick 100. I'd rather go QB. I'd rather go RB. Rather go wide receiver if I have to make it up there. But I still want to get Ingram. I just don't think he's like a 2 tight end build kind of guy. Let's go back to the board here. Check some chats. How much Woody do I have? Well, I'm assuming we talk about Woody Marks. I don't have any. He's not particularly talented. I think he's going to be a guy that's going to be safely behind both Nick Chubb and Joe Mixon. If I were to take one of the guys, and I'm not really taking him either, I would take Nick Chubb. I think that he's certainly a credible enough bet to do the exact same thing as Joe Mixon in terms of being a guy that's not going to avoid a lot of tackles at the stage of his career. Not going to catch a ton of passes. Mixon definitely a better pass catcher than Chubb, but Chubb can do a little, probably not a lot more than that. But Woody Marks is like not great at anything. He was just a volume guy at USC, and even then he wasn't great with it. Certainly a little bit of like anti-bias with him for me that I saw him play at USC, and there was never once I was like, this guy is a really exciting pro prospect. Like Marshawn Lloyd, I saw that, and we'll see how that goes for him eventually. He's like really got some special things in terms of avoided tackle rate, athleticism, ability to burst past the pile, things like that. Woody Marks is just like the definition of just a guy. Like he should be in the UFL, honestly, is how I feel about him. But if there's any team where that's going to be rewarded, it's probably Houston, where Joe Mixon's got nothing. Nick Chubb at this stage doesn't have a whole lot. Maybe Woody Marks can get in. I'm just not a bet that I want to make. And the City Sweeney American Eagle ad, I think people are reading too much. Like people are getting mad at it being like Aryan coded because it's like her good genes. And she has been a little MAGA adjacent in the past, so I get it. But like she's got good genes. She has enormous breasts. So I think that's that's like a classic enough definition of good genes that I'm certainly not going to be mad at her for it. Anyway, and I appreciate you asking me my take on that. You should be asking Mr. Poopy Buttle about you making another end of Rick and Morty season appearance there. I guess I won't spoil it for people, but Rick and Morty actually pretty good season this year. Thought that there were a couple decent episodes on the home stretch that were pretty nice. The last episode I thought was a borderline emotional one, as far as your animated dick joke show can be. Grabbing some lunchy background later. Well, I'll be here for a few hours. Have no fear. DraftKings leg of the journey coming up next, guys. I will enter that room as soon as I finish these picks, so stay tuned. If you care about such things, if you want to get in a draft room here. All right. Big Tata's overcome a lot of shortcomings. Look, if I were a large-breasted best ball streamer, I'd be doing a lot better right now. I could tell you that much. Would my takes be as good? No, because the fat in my tits would pull from my brain matter. Kidding. Kidding. but no, but my views would be enormous. Walking best ball drafts is what we'd be doing here. 2563. Not an exciting region for much of anything. I think this is a Josh Reynolds team. We didn't get our Garrett Wilson bet. We will make a bet on a shitty receiver besides him here. 2573 build here. This would normally be a spot to take Marshawn Lloyd, but not today. DJ Giddens, a guy who I do think is wheels up as RB2 for Indianapolis. I still don't think he gets real work. I think he's mostly contingent value for Jonathan Taylor not getting there. But if we're going to diversify off Marshawn Lloyd a little bit at this stage, and I still think I'll hold 20% Marshawn Lloyd, we'll go DJ Giddens here, get different, and hope he's better than Marshawn Lloyd. Final team here before we head over to DraftKings, and actually I'm going to enter the room on DraftKings now, so if you want to do that, you can. Please don't be a draft stalker if you're going to enter the room. We know who I'm talking to, even though he will absolutely still be in the room. But I'm in the draft room now on DraftKings. 9 spots left, so if you want to get in, you can. Final team here on Underdog, though. 2673. We got Justin Fields, Michael Penix at RB, Ashton Jeanty, Breece Hall, Brian Robinson, Ray Davis, Tyler Algier, DJ Giddens. Took 2 RBs in the first 40, and I feel like that should be enough. But these are not 2 of my favorite RB clicks. And I love Ashton Jeanty's talent, but I just don't think that Raheem Mostert's going to be silent in that backfield. So like the pass game's going to score a good amount of touchdowns as well. So that's my real reservation here. I think if this were like a Derrick Henry, James Cook team, I'd feel a little bit stronger. It's stupid. These guys go in the same spots. But Jeanty and Breece Hall, Brian Robinson, Ray Davis, Tyler Algier, DJ Giddens. So I think a little bit softer at RB than I would like to be normally. Giddens being a better RB6, I think would be the real thing. It stands out. Drake London, Mike Evans, Chris Olave, Juwan Jennings, Khalil Shakir, Adam Thielen, Josh Reynolds. So more Jets correlation. Not any week 17 stacking here in a real way, which you can't always get, and I was going to force it here. At tight end, Evan Ingram, Hunter Henry, Bretton Strange. Strange was a nice ADP value. That's why I took him. Not sure why he's 20 spots after ADP, unless there was some injury I missed, but that's how it is. Draft room filled here. Of course, this loser has to be in the 3-hole. Are there not other streams that you can watch and do a DraftKings draft on? I appreciate most people, but it's just weird at this point. I don't know, man. Either way, we're in a DraftKings room here. Of course, make sure to get on Drafters as well. The last stage of our journey. Drafters.com, promo code SPLASH, $100 deposit match on there. Of course, it does support the show. And if you're going to be a weirdo who has to draft in every DraftKings draft I do and watch every stream, so I've explicitly told you I don't like you, deposit on Drafters. That's what I would say. That's the ad read. Just what a fucking piece of shit. Anyway, we're picking in the 4-hole here next to this loser. It's unfucking real. Braden's in the 6th spot. He's not a loser. He's a cool guy. Not making any promises, but if I get Sidney Sweeney on to do a draft, would that be something you'd be interested in? Yeah, sure. If you get Sidney Sweeney on to do a draft, I'll book my first guest in a year. If you get me Sidney Sweeney, I'll do a stream. He wants you to pop his hymen. Oh, no, thank you. That's gross. It's just weird. And he also downvotes the videos too. You can't do all the things. You can't watch all the content, downvote the content, then also try to get in all my draft rooms. It's like the most loser behavior. And this is 2025 where I feel like everything is loser behavior. The entire politics is loser behavior. Everything online is loser behavior. This is the most loser behavior though. I'm the great and pick a great. I'm glad you're in 11. You guys all had a shot to get in. Hope you took advantage of it. He must have. I think so. I think so, Charlie. Anyway, Draft starting now. See what we got going. I don't want to get copyright struck. Bossos, he's now voting every stream because you're joining every draft. He's ready. No, that's not. You can't. It would be impossible. Like literally, we're talking now over the course of a couple seasons. He's been in 100 plus of my draft rooms across Underdog, across DraftKings. It's like such weird behavior, and like to not grasp that it's like weird behavior is one of the like strangest mental illness things I've come across on a career of working on the internet and dealing with people who like are the weirdest fucking people. Like the Barstool Times, like really could not have had more weirdos in those days, and he is still weirder to me than those guys. We got Jahmyr Gibbs here. We got Justin Jefferson here. CeeDee Lamb here. I'm happy to get Jefferson at this point. Not really worried about a hamstring injury in July. I mean, it is basically August at this point, but still a week-to-week injury for a superstar player. I just can't care about that. If we're a 4 to 6 week injury at this point, that's maybe where you start to go. Maybe you could make the case to bump Jefferson down to the 1-2 turn instead of an abundance of caution. But this team is, I think, got pretty big hopes for the year. I don't see how Justin Jefferson is not out there actively week 1. So Jefferson here. And if he isn't, I don't care because we still are playing for week 17 in case people in best ball have forgotten that. But Jefferson pick 4 here. CeeDee Lamb goes to the 5 hole. Surprised that he didn't go, frankly, earlier. People just love CeeDee Lamb. If you missed my last stream on Friday, I did talk about I do want to try to get more Cowboys a little bit. I at least want to be not full fading them, where hard to pull up my DraftKings exposures right now. But on Underdog right now, I have 3% CeeDee Lamb. For Pickens, I've got 6% because of a more reasonable price tag. Would like to get to 8 for both guys if possible. I guess 6% would also be fine because that's a light fade for me. But I just like, I'm still not buying it for the Cowboys. I know there's a lot of people, I feel like a lot of creators / analysts in particular are pushing the Cowboys a lot. I know, what's the fucking guy's name? Dwayne McFarland, I think, was also talking about it on a Peach stream and like the projections. And I might have tweeted something out about the PPR points for CeeDee Lamb and how he's had like the most expected fantasy points of any receiver in football. It's like we're still missing that George Pickens is coming in, right? And he's going to get some targets. We're still missing that the coaching staff's entirely been overhauled. Even though Brian Robinson, there has been a lot of motion in camp. I think there's been some signs of it not being a total donkey offense, even though they did hire an offensive line coach as their coordinator, which always puts on my radar for being like, what the fuck are we doing here? Probably going to run the ball a lot for sure, but it seems like they're going to run the ball creatively. But I just don't know how this is going to be a high passing volume offense. I'm going to really be surprised by that. Some of the local beat reporters have also talked about it being a run dominant team. It's like, I don't see what everybody else is seeing with the Cowboys. Like I have a hard time with it. It's actually one of the things that makes me the most uncomfortable out of all my takes this year, because it's like I'm so low on the Cowboys. I don't think Brian Schottenheimer is a good coach. I don't think the guy they hired, Clayton Adams, is like a exciting offensive coordinator coming in either. But you know, people who I respect think like Pat Thorman has been, I feel like, beating the drum for these guys a lot. I think Pat Thorman's one of the sharpest guys. If you don't follow him on Twitter, you should. He's just the right mix for me of caustic, plus, you know, he likes good drinks, and also he's got great football takes. But he like loves the Cowboys, and I'm like, fuck, man, I can't get there. I really struggle with it. Jonathan Taylor here, think a nice easy click. Bucky Irving, a more fun click for me. I do like my Jefferson Bucky Irving starts. But we'll go Jonathan Taylor here. Go with the stars of fantasy football years past. With Jonathan Taylor, Justin Jefferson starting. 2 former 101 picks. The fact you get them in a row here, I think, is pretty solid. Drafted a sweet Lamb team this morning. I mean, look, I think Lamb teams can certainly be good. And I will say for me, if I'm getting, you know, any Commanders and getting sniped on Jaden Daniels, I'm trying to build Dallas Washington from the Dak Prescott side a little bit more. I'm just not as bullish on Lamb as everybody else is, but it is what it is. Like CD, it's about it on the boys. I think that's a relatively unique take because I think everybody wants the entire pass game. Like Jake Ferguson got paid so much money, and I really think he's the definition of just a dude. It surprises me that they got rid of Dalton Schultz. Like they weren't willing to pay the money they paid to Ferguson to Schultz. That's why they let him go. Now they're paying it to Ferguson, and when they have Schoonmaker there, who's proven to be kind of a similar player, they have Span Ford there, who's not great, but is like a functional rotational tight end. I was surprised by that one. I don't know. And Dallas is also like alienating Micah Parsons more. A report came out this morning that they're further away on that deal than they were in March, which is, I don't get how that works. Kind of a weird scene. We could get more Jets here, I suppose. Could go Garrett Wilson. And that's been a very common build that I like. Josh Jacobs here, another RB. I mean, Lloyd is hurt again. Certainly could mean things for Josh Jacobs on that side. But I am going to go Garrett Wilson here. Again, I just feel pretty good about the idea of letting Garrett Wilson and ideally Justin Fields stack go against a lot of J.J. McCarthy ownership, as we've seen from the DraftKings ownership data that's out there. There's a lot of ownership right now for Jefferson and McCarthy together. Let's see if we actually pull that up right now. DraftKings hasn't put out a new dump of data, I don't believe yet, though they might do it in the next few days based upon the timing they did it last month. But let's go to the fantasy.vip site. You can see your DraftKings ownership overall from all the tournaments that got played by end of June. You got Jefferson. Oh, you can't pull up McCarthy here, but we can pull it up here. Yeah, 43% owned is J.J. McCarthy and Justin Jefferson on DraftKings. Let's see if we can do Jefferson and Fields. That's only 9.6%. So that's sort of the logic I'm going to try to apply here. If we get Fields, and if we don't get Fields, then, the theory's out the window. Fantasy VIP site is free. Yeah, I'll link it in the chat. I think it was made by a guy who is a best ball player and wanted to make something. I'm sure he would love to charge in the future, but seems like mostly a hobbyist project. So yeah, it is free. Link in the chat for people who want to check it out. Fantasy.vip /DKMM if you want to check the DraftKings ownership. And I presume if they release more data, the guy will update. I would hope. So check it out. You're going to release a new dump. Thank you for that. Let's see. Parsons is going to be in DC soon. The Neighbors in 3 years. Man, if the Giants built Neighbors up, and then as he's reaching his star apex, he goes to play with Jaden, that would be pretty tough. They do seem like very close friends, though. It would be nice. I wish that had worked out for them to play together, because certainly Jaden Daniels throw into Neighbors would be, that would be the Terry McLaurin and Debo roles rolled up into one. McLaurin going at 43 in this room. And Kenneth Walker at 44. All right. DJ Moore here. I've been encouraged by the camp reports for him. The fact that they're trying to get him the ball in the backfield means easy PPR points for DraftKings. So that's an easy click for me. DJ Moore, happy to get him here. Was more bullish on him earlier in the draft cycle, pre-NFL draft in particular. Like, I really think the biggest thing for me and the biggest issue that I had for DJ Moore was that when you draft Luther Burden, like, he's a guy that does very similar things in terms of, being a yak guy, being somebody who's going to be good after the catch point. And with how they used DJ Moore last year in particular, it's a new coaching staff, so it doesn't matter, but this is how DJ Moore's been used a lot in his career. There's a lot of short throws, expect him to do stuff after the catch. That screams Luther Burden more than it does DJ Moore at the stage of his career. But, if they're going to use him like that, and Burden is also getting literally yanked off the field, which he's a rookie, it's going to happen. I just think Moore's role is probably a little more solid for year one of Luther Burden being there, and maybe Moore gets squeezed out next year. It'd be like for Dynasty, I probably wouldn't be crazy about DJ Moore. For best ball, though, sure. Fields at 118 in your earlier draft. That's crazy given the fact he's already back in practice, but he was hurt briefly, so that does spook people on DraftKings. We have Alvin Kamara here. If you want to add one more RB, could add a fourth receiver as well. If JMO had come back, I would have really considered pairing him with Justin Jefferson, but getting Kamara here 5 spots after ADP, I can live with that. So a Jonathan Taylor, Alvin Kamara start, Jefferson, Garrett Wilson, DJ Moore. So kind of team here. We're building out the starting lineup basically, but I can live with that. But we got 3 receivers, Jefferson, Garrett Wilson, DJ Moore, alongside Taylor and Kamara. Very projectable plays here. Not any big rookie swings, but frankly, Omarion Hampton didn't come into a draftable range for me. So what was I going to do? Maybe could have taken Hampton at 28 if I really wanted to, but wasn't going to take Taylor and Hampton, I don't think. Let's see. Precedence with Saquon. Saquon, another guy too. So apparently this entire offseason, he's been preparing for a very similar workload to last year. So obviously, I think part of the reason that Saquon falls in rooms, he didn't hear going at pick 3. But Bijan also went 101 here, which I probably should have pointed out earlier. Surprised to see that. But Saquon going here at 103 in some rooms, including some of the puppy drafts I've been doing on slow drafts on Underdog. Saquon went at the 8th pick to me in one room. I think people concerned about the volume. The reality is, like, the fact that they want to give him that volume, I still think should be the thing that makes you want to take Saquon the most. And basically, there's an entire article on The Athletic talking about how he's been training this entire offseason to get that same workload again, how they're listening to him when he says he wants to get back in. They're going to put him back in. When he wants to get off the field, they're trying to put A.J. Dillon in power sets, put Shipley in pass downs. So for Saquon, like, I don't know if you liked him last year. And it's weird to me that there are people who liked him last year and they're like, well, he got too much work. I don't like him this year. It's like, you just do it again. If he gets hurt, sucks, like whatever. But anybody can get hurt. We've seen, again, the guys we talked about earlier in this video, Mixon getting hurt, Mooney getting hurt. Obviously, hopefully these aren't long-term injuries, but like anybody can get hurt this time of year. It's not just the guys that got 300 touches last year, put up 2,000 rushing yards. It's everybody. So the role is there and they're training to do that same role again this year. I don't know why you'd be down on Saquon. Hit that to the point where he's undraftable. Taking him to third and teams having the fifth seems awful. It doesn't matter that much because it's still about the texture of the overall team. Like there are players to me like Mixon, I've got a good amount of. Lloyd, I've got a good amount of. They're going to kill my CLV. Moody's hurting the CLV a little bit right now. But some teams I actually have teams with Jonnu Smith on them. And they're still my best CLV teams, even though Jonnu's lost 60 spots or whatever, because like the rest of the value around it was so good. That's ultimately what your teams are still going to be. So like, if you think Hampton's a good pick, you should still pick him. And I ranked him in the high 20s. So I think he should go around that range. Like I would put him ahead of Breece Hall. I'd put ahead of James Cook for the upside he represents. Consolidating that Chargers role is really the big thing. And Hampton's got the talent to make the most of it. So I certainly would not zero out Hampton. I zero out some rookies like Harvey. I'm not getting a lot of Henderson. I'm not getting a lot of Caleb Johnson. I'm not getting a lot of certainly getting some, but not a lot. All right, Detroit, Minnesota correlation is here with Sam Laporta. We'll just take that. So semi-elite tight end here with Laporta. Again, Jefferson on the other side. So we definitely want to get one of Goff or McCarthy on the seam if possible. And we'll see what we get on the way back here. Mixon's ADP has fallen further on DraftKings than it has on Underdog, down to 74.4 here. Not sure if I would take Mixon in this build, but we'll see. Hampton at 34 is not desirable, but okay. As long as he stays on the right side of the board, it's okay. Yeah, I think that's it. I don't know that I would view it as simplistically, but honestly, you know what? That's probably not a bad way to view it. Does feel simplistic to say it that way, but I don't think you're wrong. All right, we have Shakir on the board, Addison on the board if you want to increase the Minnesota bet, and I kind of do. Third RB would be totally fine. I mean, Mixon's a pretty nice third RB for the CM too. This is tough. I mean, Addison has been here the whole time. Mixon is not. So I am going to take Mixon here. Certainly possible on DraftKings that he would have gone all the way back around again. I don't know that that's the case, though, that I'm going to get Mixon at 93. And for me, Mixon being at 76 here gives me unique texture. So I'm taking the shot at Mixon here. Should have muted for that cough. I apologize. The team so far, I don't think it was worth the risk. Because, like, I don't have Mixon at 75 anywhere. Or 76 anywhere. So, like, for me, just building a team that's unique to me is, I think, enough at this stage. And I think Addison would make this team more fun. If I'd gotten Addison and Mixon, that would have been great. I don't know what the odds of that happening were. So the team right now is a 0-3-3-1. We got Taylor, Kamara, Jefferson, Garrett Wilson, DJ Moore, Sam Laporta, Joe Mixon. And Joe Mixon is a guy that, for me, I had ahead of Kamara for a while. So I don't want to pass up the opportunity to get these guys together because I think Mixon, he's on a better team. He's got, I think, a more reliable goal line role than Kamara's had in the past. Certainly with Taysom Hill gone, he should consolidate some more. But it has been something, where Kamara didn't get as much goal line touches in the past because they wanted to give Juwan Johnson red zone looks in some years. Michael Thomas had a good amount. Taysom Hill certainly taking the runs away enough times. Maybe that's a reason to like Kamara more is because that's gone, but the team should also be worse. So I like Mixon more than Kamara if these guys are both healthy. But if I get them together and get Laporta in the middle, I still like it. Less Mixon misses 10-plus weeks is a great pick. Can't be convinced otherwise. I agree. I think, again, it was something, too, where something I saw this morning, and now we're in the time of year where, like, I'm consuming so much football content that it's hard to attribute everything. But it might have been a Levitan thing. I forget. But talking about the idea of like Mixon playing and how people probably end up double or triple counting it because he's a guy that people didn't want to click anyway because he's old and they didn't like him and they don't care as much about this kind of endless opportunity he got in Houston last year. So now that he's injured and like he's, and there's some uncertainty there, there. People will now just like not click him entirely. And I think that's where, for me, like Mixon had a really valuable role last year. I mean, you don't have many guys. Mixon put up 4.1 red zone rushes a game. That actually might be the highest in football. Just got to do a quick check here. And it also kind of speaks to his own inability to punch it in. But yeah, James Conner got 3.2. Jahmyr Gibbs got 3.2 rushing opportunities inside the 20 per game. Josh Jacobs, 3.5. James Cook, 3. I mean, there's nobody even at 4. Did Kyron get to 4? Kyron got to 4.4. Kyron had more than Mixon. Jonathan Taylor had 4.1. But that's like not a lot of guys. And, you know, those are backs in particular, Kyron and Mixon. The people are just constantly trying to find a replacement for. And it's like, it's hard to find teams, or, you know, situations where a team trusts that player that much and gives them that amount of work. We've got Mayfield here, which does not correlate with anything, unfortunately. Cooper Kupp, as to me, still a tier break at receiver. Jaden Reed getting some positive coach speak about getting on the field more, even though he hasn't been on the field as much as he probably should be in camp. I mean, the Jaden Reed one, his price has fallen a lot. So I'm just going to scoop that value here. If Kupp doesn't come back, no big deal. If he does come back, I think he would not be a bad receiver out on top here. But Jaden Reed, they're trying to play him in 2 receiver sets or talking about how he can play in 2 receiver sets. I don't see how that's likely to be the case, given the fact that there have been enough Jaden Reed slot opportunities last year. That's basically what he was limited to. But he's been playing ahead of Golden in some stuff. I don't know. If Golden's going to keep going is where he goes. If Reed falls, I would just scoop Reed. But here we go. This guy's going to think about it. Texas in general seem like an easy, soft fade, brand new O-line. No, not to me. You're bringing in new coaching is like the main thing there. And you're bringing in also Rams tree coaching, which continues to hit every possible time. Not every Rams hire, former Ram coach hire is going to be a winner necessarily. But certainly enough of them can be. The douchebag next to me takes Jared Goff early because I'm sure he has brilliant reasons as always. What a fucking piece of shit. Really just hate that guy so much. Very few people I wish for death, but that's one. 3-4-1. Jalen Warren here. We'll make that pick. Hopefully we'll be able to get Mooney back. If not, we'll lose the Detroit, Minnesota stack. It is what it is. The team so far, we got 4 RBs, 4 receivers, 1 tight end with Jonathan Taylor, Alvin Kamara, a receiver, Justin Jefferson, Garrett Wilson, DJ Moore, tight end, Sam Laporta. So Detroit, Minnesota correlation if we don't get a QB out of it. Joe Mixon, the value is too much. Jaden Reed, the relative value is too much. Jalen Warren, just a player I like at ADP. And that's that. I think we're pretty well balanced so far. Because of it being PPR on DraftKings, I'm a little bit more comfortable pushing receiver down the board. But as I've said enough times, if I'm not getting wide receiver 5 by the Mims Christian Kirk tier, that's the big issue for me. We'll still be able to probably get one of those guys, if not somebody a little bit better. So that's where we're at for this team right now. You going to watch Thursday night? Feels like we're so back. Not a big preseason football guy. I will put it on, I'm sure, because I always do. But really, for me with the preseason stuff, it's not really going to be anything that matters too much. And it depends on the games too, like what players are playing that might matter and might actually get action. So let's see the schedule. So first game, Chargers Lions. I would, for myself, have a vague curiosity about Trey Harris, but he's important enough that he might not play a ton in the first game. And the rest of the games don't go off until the following weekend. I thought there was also this weekend too, but apparently not. Yeah, for the Lions, Tesla's getting some decent camp hype. Maybe he plays a little bit, and that's something interesting for you guys out there. Oops, wrong window. Probably don't care about my underdog draft at this stage. But yeah, I think for the Lions, Tesla, interesting. Don't care about anybody who's not on offense there. Hendon Hooker, curious to see how he plays. I think that'd be another one. Definitely both teams too. And I know this is a thing that Cody Main, Splash Play alum, has been on the show before, talking Pro Bowl when that game actually mattered for DFS. Playing both defenses for the preseason slate probably matters a good amount as well. But I think, yeah, both defenses, Hendon Hooker would be what I would play because I think they really want to get a good long look at him. It'd be my guess. Tesla's been playing with the second team, so he might play a lot of that game. They would be the one that would be most curious about. Trey Harris, I'd be curious about. Kamani Vidal might get some work in that game. I'd be curious to see if he evolves, but if I have it on, I probably won't be paying the closest attention. And I probably will not play the DFS slate either. All right, what are you doing, Gatones here? Gatones has a chance to make this unfortunate for me. Okay, we got Fields back, so that initial bet we wanted to make of Jefferson with Fields, we got correct. So that works here. Fields also after ADP. I didn't reach early for him, and I also didn't talk about it on stream in case somebody wanted to blow it up. So we got Fields here as a value here, a 1-4-4-1 build. We'll see what we got on the way back. All right, Javonte going here at 119. Javonte and Miles Sanders right now competing for that Dallas starting RB role. Jaden Blue lumped in a group with Deuce Vaughn. The luminaries like Deuce Vaughn and Phil Maffa. So not really the best start out right now for Jaden Blue. He's made a few plays in camp, though. Caught one nice little deep ball from Joe Milton that went semi-viral. So people want Jaden Blue to hit, much like I thought the entire time period. He's going to start behind Sanders and that, and we'll see how that goes. But Jaden Blue not starting hot, and McCarthy comes all the way back here, 12-pick discount. Genius. It all worked out well. So we got our 2 QBs. Still only 4 receivers. Four receivers though. Acid reflux kicking in. We got a 2-4-4-1. I'm drinking coffee now, and I feel like it's thrown off my body feng shui. Drank it right before the show, which I never do. So if I'm talking even faster than usual, that's why. Justin Fields, Jonathan Taylor, Alvin Kamara here at the start. A receiver, Justin Jefferson, Garrett Wilson, DJ Moore. Tight end, Sam Laporta. Got the big value on Mixon. Enough of the value on Jaden Reed to take him, which speaks a lot because I don't take Jaden Reed at all at this stage. Jalen Warren, JJ McCarthy here. So certainly could add a third QB if we want a 20-round draft. Not sure I'll prioritize it at this point. Yeah, I don't think I want to live in a world where I'm drinking IPAs at 11 a.m. on a Tuesday. I think it's where I'm at with the world overall. I'm probably going to be cutting IPAs out overall soon, which is not a good move before football season, but trying to change some habits around and doing my back to walking and lifting daily now and trying to get something going. Might take some supplements as well. We'll see. Either way, though, Christian Kirk goes at 130. So we are now out of my ideal wide receiver 5 range. Mims and Kirk have both gone, but that's a sacrifice for taking 2 QBs here. Shout out, Jack. Got to run to a meeting. We'll watch back. Appreciate you being here, Jack. Appreciate all you guys watching. I haven't plugged it all, so please make sure to subscribe, hit the like button, leave a comment. I really have not done a good job asking for likes. And then for what it's worth, I still have to deal with the random weirdos passing by. Like, my Friday stream was a real clean stream. I got in, had good takes, had some fun with the drafters chat. That was a good stream on Friday, and I got downvotes because these fucking haters just won't go away. So legitimately, if you enjoy this content, please support my sanity. Hit the like button, subscribe. It goes a long way to balance out the algorithm, even though it doesn't really matter. Downvotes still get you engagement the same way. I just hate that, like, I could do good work and it doesn't matter. It's like the worst part of this quote unquote job right now. Is that like I give out good takes, I hopefully good enough. You know, I certainly come by them, doing my prep work, looking at data, thinking through stuff, hearing other people coming to some sort of grips on things. So to just get downvotes because people are like fucking idiots and mad at me over something over Twitter that they had nothing to do with is like just whatever. So please hit the like button if you enjoy this content. Subscribe. It goes a long way here in this world where it's like just loud morons and fucking draft stalkers in the 3-hole. Can't win. What matters? Like the dislikes don't matter. Dislike the most dislikes I ever had was the one video was the Milton Williams video, and that got the most views I've had. So actually dislikes I think helped in some cases, but I don't like seeing them because like when I'm doing good work, you know, I want the like button. We got Rashad White here, but we really need to get a receiver at this point. Kyle Williams does nothing for me, but he is correlated for week 17. We're going to take that shot here on Kyle Williams being my wide receiver 5. Need a good wide receiver 6, though, because Kyle Williams still going to be playing behind Pop Douglas for at least a portion of things. But, you know, Williams getting some first-team work, getting some touchdowns from Drake May. I think there's been positive signal for him that's not making me buy in, because I don't think that he's ever going to live up to where people had him graded before. Kyle Williams previously going top 120, in some rooms going top 110. I've never bought into him having that much opportunity, but him catching the occasional touchdowns, being a heightened version of a Pop Douglas, Tyquan Thornton, the hopes and dreams people had for him, I think it's possible. So Kyle Williams here. I'll say my good work matters. Got it. Okay, I appreciate you. Appreciate the content, Spags. A lot of this content helped me make the finals last year. Hey, glad to hear it. That's what I'm here for. And look, Pete talked about anything on his stream this week. If you are max entering these tournaments, you're only going to make one final every 8 years. Like that's how the math works out. Obviously, hopefully it ends up better for you guys, but set expectations accordingly and all that, and you'll never lose at that point. 2-4-5-1 build here, just trying to add some talent in at receiver because we did a star's position a little bit more than I would like. Adam Thielen is quote unquote talent at receiver, and especially for a PPR site, right after ADP, we can take that click. So Adam Thielen, wide receiver 6. And I think he balances out as well if Kyle Williams does start slow, or if he just sucks this year, Thielen will at least give us some PPR points. So the team right now is Fields, Jonathan Taylor, Alvin Kamara, Justin Jefferson, Garrett Wilson, part of our stack with Fields, DJ Moore as well on top of that. Sam Laporta, part of the Minnesota-Detroit stack we have going. Joe Mixon, again, too good of a value. Jaden Reed, too good of a value. Jalen Warren, just like him at ADP. McCarthy, part of our Minnesota-Detroit stack. Kyle Williams, week 17, bring back. Adam Thielen, just helping prop up the projections, really it for him. I think the team works. Pat's beat writers are saying that Diggs and Pop are locked in and Williams, Butte, Polk are fighting for that next role. Well, the beat report that I saw this week is that Polk might get cut. I forget who it was. Is it Rosenblatt? Or is Rosenblatt the Jets guy? I don't want to mix up the writer names. So that's part of why I never say athletic beat reporter names. I just say the athletic. Besides James Boyd, who follows me on Twitter, and he's the Colts guy. He's a great guy. Everybody else, whatever. But it was like the athletic New England beat there. I did their roster cut thing. And they had both Polk and Javon Baker being on the cut list this year. I think they had the guy being closest, Kendrick Bourne, who could make the roster, but they would have him being cut. I don't know how likely that is necessarily, but I think it maths out. Butte's played well enough. Butte also is really the only receiver who played well with Drake May last year, just at least based on the results, if nothing else. I like Pop Douglas still, but he is sort of blocking a guy who this regime brought in with Kyle Williams. And I think that's something that I probably should account for a little bit more. At least if Kyle Williams is going to be, closer in ADP to Pop Douglas. But I like Pop Douglas still. I think he's a good flyer for where he's been going, but I wouldn't want Pop Douglas to flip Kyle Williams. I just don't think that wouldn't be smart to, pass up this rookie who these guys brought in and who should be more of a game changer than Pop. Pop's ceiling is probably being a 7 catch for 125 kind of guy, whereas Kyle Williams could score a touchdown on one pass kind of thing. So I think they're different guys. Polk was getting reps of the ones according to NBC guys. I mean, I don't know. I just know what I read was that they thought he was on the bubble of being cut. So I certainly wouldn't take Polk at this point. I would have thought based on the fact that he got picked last year that there'd be a shot, and they wanted to try him a bunch of different ways last year. None of them were really the best deployment of him. They had him playing out of the slot, which I never really got. It wasn't what he did at Washington, but I don't know. Either way, Polk, to me, you probably shouldn't click him anyway. We have a 2-4-6-1, so we made it up at receiver well enough. Certainly could start to think about tight end a little bit more with Sam Laporta. But I think we can keep adding some RB value, getting Garendo 21 spots after ADP. I don't know what he did to deserve this fall, but we'll take him here. Maybe because CMC is looking good. Some clips out there. He caught one pass at a clip that everybody's like, whoa, CMC's back. It wasn't even in 11 on 11s. I think it was in 7 on 7s. It was CMC catching the pass. I'm like, that's the one that's gone viral today of CMC. The Twitter echo chambering of here's a player that we all collectively like. Here's a reason we can like him more and pump him up. Let's use it is sort of the ethos, I feel like, for how that goes a lot. But that was CMC with his little clip out there of him catching a pass. Glad he's not dead for sure, but it was really not the most impressive. Really good RB spot here. Tight end still got value on Jonnu Smith. Jonnu Smith has been catching some touchdowns in the 7 shots Steelers practice where they compete in the red zone offense, starting offense versus starting defense. So I am going to take the tight end here, go Jonnu Smith. I think a 6th RB would have been credible as well. Seventh receiver at this point, Alec Pierce, maybe. Jack Besh, I'm still not really taking because I'm just not sure what his pathway to get in the field is. Given that Jacoby Myers has been Geno Smith's top target so far in camp. Besh has played some two receiver sets, but I just don't think he's reliably going to be there with Thornton and Tucker, and and Bowers still taking up some opportunity there in the slot. So that's how I'm going to try to make my decision here and go with Johnny Smith instead. So a 2-5-6-2 build so far, again, pretty well balanced. Fields, Jonathan Taylor, Alvin Kamara, Justin Jefferson, Garrett Wilson, DJ Moore, Sam Laporta, our semi-elite tight end, Joe Mixon, Jaden Reed, my two values that I couldn't pass up, Jalen Warren fleshing out the RB room, JJ McCarthy, part of the Minnesota-Detroit stack, Kyle Williams, the Jets, New England bring back, Adam Thielen, just giving us some wide receiver projection, Garendo, too big of a value, Johnny Smith, in my opinion, still too big of a value. Johnny Smith getting the most triple tax out of everybody, I think, in a draft right now. It's one of those things, too, where if Johnny Smith got his money in March, April, if he got the money around the NFL draft, people would be like, oh, Johnny Smith, one of the biggest free agent contracts of the year. Like people like Juwan Johnson, still six in my head. He got big money. Ferguson getting similarly big money this year. Recently, like that stuff does matter a good amount. For Johnny Smith, it's like, oh, he's going to Pittsburgh. How awful, because people like Freiermuth. He's still getting paid over $10 million to come to Pittsburgh. And he really is the kind of perfect receiver to go alongside on Aaron Rodgers at this stage where Rodgers doesn't want to press it downfield if he doesn't have to. If you give Johnny Smith kind of bullshit targets that he got last year for Miami, where you're talking about basic like check down flanker routes and he can just catch and run and do something after it, I think it's a good spot for him. So still team Johnny Smith, the guy who also has hit his apex previously with Arthur Smith, the Smith connection. But I think for Jonnu, it's just like, it's been odd to me that he now goes behind Hunter Henry, behind Chigakonkwo, who I like, behind Gesicki here, who they're talking about signing Noah Fant. I don't think they will. Jonnu's paid too steep of a price tag at this point, in my opinion. But we got another 5 picks left. So strap in, guys. And then the drafter stage of things coming up last. I will tell you guys when I enter that room. So you can play along with me on drafters today. Drafters also launched a Superflex tournament, it looks like. For people who are stupid. You guys who like dumb shit out there. You got a Superflex contest for yourself. I mean, 7th receiver would be logical. But really not a lot I love in this spot. Hopkins, Pat Bryant, who I don't think is helped out by Cortland Sutton getting new money. I'm going to grab a 3rd tight end and go Mason Taylor here. We've got our Jets bet. Mason Taylor looking okay in camp so far, even though I don't think he's going to get a ton of volume throughout the year. But Mason Taylor on this team works well enough for me as a 3rd tight end. Not stupid, just special. I'm a Superflex fan. I really, and I'm the one that really shouldn't. Whatever you like, you like. More power to you. I hate Superflex, is the way that I should put it. If you enjoy it, more power to you. I'm sure there's an edge to it as well. It's just like, to me, it's like Christmas shopping, where it's like everybody's just frantically trying to get QBs, and it's like a panic, and it's not fun, and you often don't get the players you want as a result. I would rather do the Badge Bros Brawl type of tournament on Underdog than I would do Superflex. But, you know, I hope people find their happiness regardless. Justice Hill on the board here. This week, Todd Monken gave a quote that was basically what I've said about Justice Hill the entire offseason, that he's the backup. He really kind of threw Keaton Mitchell under the bus, saying he's competing for touches with the 3rd string RBs for the most part. He's got to fight off other guys in the depth chart, like Justice Hill's entrenched to them. Derrick Henry's entrenched to them. So I think Justice Hill, a little bit undervalued with where he's gone the entire offseason to flesh out an RB room. But also, like, he's also a guy that's, I think people are worried, and I'm worried a little bit too, that Keaton Mitchell can come in and upset things. I don't think that's going to be the case. Speaking of that, I am going to take Justice Hill here. Talk myself into it. So RB6 will be Justice Hill. Give the team a read with 3 picks left. Justin Fields, got him as a nice value. Jonathan Taylor, Alvin Kamara. Jefferson, Garrett Wilson, DJ Moore, Sam Laporta, Joe Mixon, also a nice value. Jaden Reed, in my opinion, a little bit too cheap now. DraftKings for a PPR site especially. Jalen Warren, JJ McCarthy, Kyle Williams, Adam Thielen, Isaac Garendo, Jonnu Smith, Mason Taylor, and Justice Hill. So 2-6-6-3 build. Probably took the 3rd tight end earlier than I needed to, but I'm not going to go up and reach for guys I'm not crazy about just to fill a positional need. So sort of how I do that. Let's scroll all the way down here and see what these fellas pick. Josh Reynolds, come on down. It is a 20-round draft, and I've got Fields, so you're right. Gonna have a bunch of Hill. Yeah, look, he's the RB2. I don't know that, like, if Derrick Henry gets hurt, they'll bring somebody in. Like, they could sign Leonard Fournette. It wouldn't shock me. The Ravens do love old former bell cow backs. But, you know, like Justice Hill playing the third and longs, playing those kind of situations that Derrick Henry is just not naturally going to be a fit. There's still opportunity there. Really, it comes down to game flow and how that works out. Justice Hill's an absolute steal at ADP. Those spike weeks are no joke, and he's consistently mixed in even with an elite RB on that team. I agree. It sucks, like, honestly, given how good Derrick Henry was and how I would say Derrick Henry is also kind of like Nick Chubb was before he got hurt. A little bit undervalued in the pass game. Like, people just think these guys are pure, you know, decimal backs, like my pal Laffy and Ben Rossa over at Stochastic would point out, where it's like the guys that don't get PPR points, they're just adding a couple yards in a chunk and any touchdowns they get on top of that. But like, Henry can catch the ball a little bit. Like, Henry was pretty efficient when he got targets last year, but the fact that there is like a role that exists for a guy like Justice Hill, and he's good enough with it. Like, Henry got targeted 18% of the time he ran a route last year for a 0.26 EPA. And he also had a 43% avoided tackle rate when he did catch a pass. Henry was legit good in the pass game, but they still think Justice Hill needs to be out there. So take Justice Hill. He's undervalued by multiple rounds. I agree. You think Hill, in a perfect world, I mean, he should certainly be ahead of, like, Shipley is. So Shipley has gone in this 17th, 16th round range the entire time. AJ Dillon, if his neck holds up, he's going to play a lot more than people want. Like, AJ Dillon's the power back. Like, he's the power backup. He's not going to be one that comes in for Saquon unless Saquon is gassed and like ass out because he broke a 50-yard run and he's tired and like whatever. But Shipley's going to get not even Gainwell's role, it sounds like. I've not ever been a big Shipley believer, but I'm even more not a Shipley believer currently. I think Darius Slayton feels like a nice click here. He's had some good camp highlights, which is not a reason I would take him, but getting paid the big money, $22 million guaranteed this offseason. Darius Slayton benefiting as well from, I mean, if Neighbors is banged up, and he is banged up today, again, a shoulder injury for him doesn't really matter that much to me, but for Slayton, maybe comes up a little bit in ADP. Same thing for Wandale because of Neighbors if he misses time. So we'll take the shot at Slayton here in round 18. Let's see, we get in round 19 here. And probably going to be time to enter the drafters draft after this, but I will tell you guys. Tough the last few rounds. I know I've said this before, whenever I do a DraftKings draft, but like, there was a while where the 19th, 20th rounds on DraftKings, you had a lot of good players available still. At this stage, it's like dust. Not a lot of guys take the flyer on at this point. So this chat about Josh Reynolds may be correct, but we'll see. All right, Lockett goes 6 RBs, 7 receivers, 3 tight ends. I mean, I could just take Russell Wilson. Yeah, you know what? Take Russell Wilson. Van Jefferson running with the ones for the Titans? I don't even, Van Jefferson's on the Titans now, right? Yeah, I don't think that matters too much. I mean, like, Ayumanor, not really a guy I take too often. You could take Van Jefferson if you want, I guess. I would take the shot on Lockett first, personally. I think Lockett's going to play a good amount. Lockett has also gotten some downfield targets alongside Ridley in recent practices, so Lockett some signs of life here. But yeah, I think for me, not crazy about Van Jefferson. 20th round, though, if you have Cam Ward. If you have Cam Ward and Lockett and Ayumanor are gone, I could see taking that shot, I guess, but wouldn't be a priority for me. Never Van, only Yvonne. Here we go. Only Yvonne from Cars 2 in particular, where Mater gets to play a foreign. We talked about Cars 2 on stream before. There's actually a skit that I'd never seen before that popped up on my YouTube recently, where there's like an SNL skit where Owen Wilson is doing Cars 4, or Luke Wilson. Owen Wilson. Sorry, mixing up my Wilsons. Owen Wilson was doing Cars 4 line readings, and it's like all about him like fucking underage girls. It was a funny sketch that I'd never seen before. But Yvonne, when I besides our Yvonne, really do think of Yvonne from Cars 2 the most, unfortunately. I see that name. How are you feeling about Naylor? Hardly knew her. I don't feel great about Naylor. Do you think Ty Felton long-term takes the Naylor role away? But Naylor's probably ahead of him for this year. I probably would take Felton for the upside more, but they probably both are meaningless. So I'm not going to take Naylor here, but wouldn't begrudge somebody else doing it. Wicks had a calf injury in camp this week, so he might go undrafted. the Kachows. I didn't even know her age, Kachow. It was a very good skill. I recommend that one if you have a moment and you like, and you know the Cars mythology at all. If your kids made you watch it, Dontavian Wicks goes. I would have taken him for free for sure. Now we got nothing. Tesla's playing well in camp. I'm not sure how he gets in the field because he and Tim Patrick do different stuff. But I'll take Tesla here, round 20 for free. Just not crazy about Naylor because I think Felton's long-term a better player than him. So final team here. I forgot to enter the drafters draft. But let's do that same time. 6 spots on drafters, guys, so getting there now. But my final DraftKings team, we got Justin Fields, Jonathan Taylor, Alvin Kamara. At receiver, we have Justin Jefferson, Garrett Wilson, DJ Moore. Tight end, Sam Laporta. Flex right now, we got Joe Mixon. Then Jaden Reed, Jalen Warren, JJ McCarthy. Big Minnesota-Detroit stack at this point. Kyle Williams, part of our Jets New England stuff. Adam Thielen, Isaac Guerrero, Jonnu Smith, Mason Taylor, Justice Hill, Darius Slayton, Russell Wilson for free. Did I have any? No correlation for my Giants stack, but that's okay. And Isaac Tesla here for free as well. I'm happy with that team. Could always be a little bit better, obviously, but good enough for me. 4 spots left on drafters, guys. Come along for the ride here. The last stage of our $4.5 million try draft-a-thon. So show some love on drafters. Use the promo code SPLASH. Of course, they're the presenting sponsor of Splash Play this NFL offseason. And really, they're the only company out there that would allow me to draft on all the platforms as part of my pitch to them because they care about you guys playing best ball, getting in and actually getting shots to win money and get the most you can out of it. That's why they offer you all the promos on drafters. And really, still, the big thing to keep in mind at this stage where we have about 1 month left, there's probably going to be overlay on drafters. The DraftKings main tournament is, I think, 48% filled, might be a little bit less than that. Drafters is like 1/3 filled. So good shot at overlay in the total points format means you just end up finishing higher. So really recommend getting in on drafters now for that best ball championship main event. It's a good time to do it. And if you're going to 150 max and get cash back, got to start doing it now, basically. Let's see. Seems like Krosky Merritt has been making noise in camp. Jalen Lane's also been catching a few, but yeah, I agree that he's also behind the third stringer there, McNichols, who had like a pretty decent year backing up both Robinson and Eckler last year. So Krosky Merritt, Jalen Lane, both been making some plays in camp. Neither one's really a guy that I believe in enough to make the roster. I just think that team is going to be very concentrated. Again, saw it really in practice last year. And certainly I was burned by the Luke McCaffreys of the world not getting there. But I would say that for me and how that team ran, it's like I think the entire offense flows through Robinson and Eckler for the most part. That's your top of funnel at RB. And then everything else is going through McLaurin, Debo. Debo is still one of those guys I think is going to have a monster year. And I'll die on that hill. Really love Debo. Think that he's shown a lot in camp as well, certainly with McLaurin not out there. But he's getting all the touchdowns in camp. And like there hasn't been like a Debo drumbeat. Like the beat reporters are certainly talking about him enough. Every time there's like a Commander's tweet, it's like, oh, here's this guy. Here's Debo, caught another touchdown. And yet there's been no Debo steam. And I think that's something that people are a little bit, I wouldn't say blind on, but maybe a little bit blind on. I'm not sure if we'll see rushing plays for him. I think the screen game is going to be more the big thing for him because there were a lot of screens last year that went to Eckler, that went to McLaurin in particular. Like McLaurin, I've said this a lot in stream, but like McLaurin caught a lot of slants last year, caught a lot of motion plays like that were just not his natural fit. And obviously great for him to expand and all of that, but like he's going to be a go ball guy. He should be converting more of the 50-yard touchdowns he didn't quite convert last year. But like those short range touchdowns should go to Debo largely. So I think there's a lot for him to go there if he gets run plays or not. But even if he doesn't get actual rushes, he'll get like pseudo rushes a good amount. But I imagine they could use him in play action. They could use him in RPO stuff. They could definitely use Debo creatively, which sometimes, Cliff Kingsbury's not the most creative guy, so that's the issue. But Debo's slappy, especially in full PPR. I think there's just great opportunity for him for touchdowns. Like I think he's good in half PPR too. And you got to keep in mind, like Debo's a guy, and I didn't agree with the price tag, but it still was what it was. Top 30 pick the last couple years, and now all of a sudden he's going at 70. I think it's good to grab Debo if you can. I agree. Debo fits Cliff shit so well. And it comes down to like, did you watch Commanders games or not last year? I think if you did as much as I did, and it's, some people out there, I'm sure the same thing, you would see like a really obvious way to use Debo and use him well. Jamar Chase here. When I'm getting the 1-on-1, I'm still taking Chase. At a certain point, I could see taking Bijan Moore. I got to say his correct name now. Saquon Barkley has fallen to 5.7 on drafters, which is batshit. But Bijan now safely the number 2 pick here. And if you're on drafters, got to get him in the first couple spots, it looks like. But Jamar Chase, happy to do that. We'll see what we build around him. And a lot of time to fill in between picks. So drop any shit you want in chat. We can talk about it. Look, we basically covered every news item I wanted to. Just going through the Discord. We'll quickly plug the Discord, by the way. Whenever there is anything I see interesting, whether it's an athletic little screenshot, a clip myself, or something I see on Twitter, I am dropping it on the Discord. You are getting value added by joining the Splash Play Discord for just $5. So join down below. Again, really not about the money. Is obviously, if a lot of you guys signed up, it would be about the money. For right now, though, it's like I make $2 on this. It doesn't really matter. For you guys, though, joining the Discord on there, it's paywalled, so you can just talk about whatever you want, not have to worry about stuff. But also because I'm trying to add actual value, giving you guys my takes. Guys like our guy Patrick in the chat as well is like doing some data analysis. And he's a guy that's worked for some of the sites before. So we've had some interesting content in the channel lately, and I do want to make sure if you guys are currently a paying member, or if you're not, join the Discord, get in there. And if you are a member of this channel, you get to join for that $5, and just make sure you click the link in the description. It adds you automatically based on your YouTube channel status, basically. So please do join. All right, shout out guy Nolan Kelly over at Stochastic. I'll be over there at 3 p.m. today, so watch that. Favorite late rounders this year. I mean, it would still be Marshawn Lloyd, even though a groin injury for him is not going to be the most exciting. In terms of projectable receivers, Slayton is still a guy I would take late. Justice Hill, we just talked about with the DraftKings draft. I think that he's a good late click. Trying to think if there's anybody else. Let me look through my exposures briefly that I'd really make a larger case for. Keenan Allen, I still pretty strongly believe. Obviously, Nolan's a Stochastic guy. He knows. In terms of like projections, if Keenan Allen signs anywhere, and he will at some point, hopefully somewhere that's most advantageous to him, his projection is going to be higher than everybody else in that range. So he's a guy that I've taken a ton of this year, and I would continue to do it as long as he's there like round 17, 18. That's where he should go right now without a team. Those are probably my biggest ones, but tight ends are easy to make up there. Your Juwan Johnson tier of guys. You guys know the deal with late round stuff. Try to spread out the exposure a little bit more, but those would be the ones that come to mind first for me in terms of guys I take a lot. Guys I want to get more of, I mentioned him on the DraftKings draft or on the Underdog draft. DJ Giddens is definitely one I want to get more of here because I think he is now locked into contingent value bet. He's been ahead of Khalil Herbert and who's the other guy in that room? Goodson. He's been ahead of Tyler Goodson as well in that room already. As for Giddens, I don't think he's guaranteed to roll alongside Jonathan Taylor. I think that's like a pure bell cow team. But Giddens, another one who I'm going to try to get my exposure up a little bit more on down the home stretch. I appreciate you, Nolan. Hope you're doing well. Tim Patrick, not for me. Not for me. You can make the case for him, though. I'd rather take the shot on Tesla if I were going to do that. The Patrick's playing ahead. He also worked with John Morton on the Broncos, who's the new Detroit OC from Denver. He apparently is one of the guys that like is a Morton boy. So you can make the case for Tim Patrick. I just like an old guy with multiple knee injuries. Not really my preferred target, but I'll look up Tim Patrick's numbers in a sec here. And he wasn't bad, I don't think. So we got Chase Brown, T. Higgins here, Trey McBride here, but we don't need week 17 correlation. I guess this is just a spot to try the big Cincinnati bet. Taking all the... oops. I guess here's a spot to take Bucky Irving. I meant to click T. Higgins, but I did click Bucky Irving. I'm not mad at it. I was going to go with a T. Higgins, Jamar Chase Brown bet. Instead, we got Chase Brown, Bucky Irving, Jamar Chase. All players I like, so I think I win regardless. But I was going to do the Cincinnati super stack here, and instead we will just do a normal team, I suppose, instead. That's my bad. Franklin, Vele, or Turpin? Not Turpin. Still be Franklin for me. Vele's too similar to Pat Bryant, which I think makes them both unappealing clicks. Troy Franklin, I'll hold the bag for. But Tim Patrick last year, 0.42 EPA per target, pretty good. 14% target per out run, total replacement level for that. Didn't qualify. Actually, no, he got 0.5 red zone targets a game, so he did qualify there. Deep targets a game, 0.4 a game for a 0.3 EPA per targets. It's okay. I would still take the shot on Tesla for sure. Since there's no playoffs on drafters or prizes based on total season-long score. Good question, Mr. Nick. Set me up for the ad read. So the big difference here on drafters, there's no playoff pods. It is just total points. So the main thing is that you're trying to play for the entire year. So guys that are season-long winners that even don't spike in week 15, week 16, week 17, a lot more valuable than they would be on Underdog or DraftKings where you are playing for that pod format. So I tend to think part of the reason I've had some of my best finishes on drafters without, putting as many entries in, where I put in 30 entries a couple years ago, finished top 100, put in 3 entries in playoff best ball this past year on drafters and finished top 10. You end up kind of drafting, I would say getting results rather closer to your true draft ability, just because that luck component is gone. And I also think too, if you do build teams even more projected minded. Like I personally believe for everything, this has been, as I mentioned a lot of times on stream, big shift for me this year is like, I'm still trying to build tournament minded teams, but I want them to be more in the realm of projectability that feels a little bit more comfortable to me. For drafters, it should almost be like, should be the most projected tournament you do because like that should be the eliminator. That's where you're basically building cash games every week. But for here, it should be like more projection minded where you want to get 2 RBs that are in the hunt and have good weekly projections, 3 wide receivers that are in the hunt and have good weekly projections, and then spike week guys around that is sort of what I would try to do. But your mileage may vary. Wouldn't draft the team I'm doing now at another site. I agree with that generally. I mean, for me, I would do a Chase, Bucky Irving, Chase Brown start. But for Braden here, building Barkley, Derrick Henry, Allen, and then Metcalf, yeah, that's a team that you could still play it on DraftKings and Underdog, and like I don't think it would have a 0% chance to win because like anything can win. But like it's a little more projection minded here, I think overall. James Cook falling a good amount here, but not really a play for this one. Cortland Sutton getting his money. Jameson Williams here. I think these guys are the most appealing at this point. And I'm just going to grab them both. Right. Just thinking it through. Yeah, I think we want that third receiver. And I could certainly go up and get Calvin Ridley, Zay Flowers, but I'll just go JMO here. Let's not get too cute. So Chase Brown, Bucky Irving, Jamar Chase, Cortland Sutton, Jameson Williams start right by the ADP numbers for the most part, besides absorbing James Cook here as a value. And I like James Cook. I just don't think you need a 3 RB start on drafters. It's viable enough, but not the way I'm going to build. Let me move me down here too. I realize I've got to do a different view for drafters. I keep forgetting that. So 2 RBs, 3 wide receivers through 5 rounds. We'll see what we get on the way back. Chat here. Mr. Poopy Butthole here. This is full PPR. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Poopy Butthole. The chat not popping off, people getting angry at themselves today, unfortunately. You feel more limited in terms of drafting guys like Addison, McCaffrey, et cetera, who have risks of being out in a couple games. Yes. So like Rashee Rice has fallen the most on drafters. And that's because like you don't know what he's going to be suspended for. If he's out 6 games, you're now losing 6 games of total points, and the spike weeks matter a little bit less for you. So yeah, you should absolutely downgrade those guys more. For Addison, I think is going to get lightly suspended. I haven't talked about this a lot on stream because it hasn't really come up naturally, I guess. But like he did Mothers Against Drunk Driving. He did courses. He did like a bunch of speaking things and like community service stuff after his DUI. He went through the motions a lot more than Rashee Rice has. I mean, Rashee Rice also a more serious crime if we're going to try to judge that. The vehicular recklessness or whatever it is just higher on the food chain than a DUI where he didn't hurt anybody. I think Addison might get like 1 or 2 games. And like, so him, I probably wouldn't move too much on drafters, even though it does hurt you a little bit. A couple games doesn't matter that much. You might lose that anyway. To injury throughout the course of things. Even if guys like healthy throughout the year, you'd easily lose a game or 2. Even 4 games would not be crazy. But to know you're going to lose, I would say 3 to 6 games for Rashee Rice, that has to lead to a fall. So I don't know. Can't wait for Addison to get a 2-game suspension and his ADP hits 100. I would hope his ADP doesn't fall if he gets a 2-game suspension. Like it will, because people overreact to everything and double, triple count shit a million times over. But like we've already paid the price, I think, for Addison if he's going to lose 2 games. Like 2 games is nothing. Again, literally every player on the board, if you told me they lost 2 games, it just wouldn't affect how I would view it. Because like Josh Allen could lose 2 games and that would hurt you so much. But in reality, like doesn't mean that he's not worth going pick 30 here. But that's my take on it. We'll see what we get on the way back. Obviously, some flexibility at this point. The Higgins drafter has Jaden Daniels, so a shot of getting Joe Burrow back, but certainly one of these guys could decide to take Joe Burrow uncorrelated. And on total points format, you can make the case they're not entirely wrong to do it. Though certainly, the stacking benefit is still there for total points format, much like it is for pods. Having that correlated bet still the main thing. And over the course of a season, if Jamar Chase goes nuts, Joe Burrow probably is carried along to a good enough year. But I'm flexible here. If I get sniped, I get sniped. Delco Dave in my area. I'm much less proud of being in Delco. But shout out Delco Dave. This guy does take Burrow, so he does double elite QB, which is stupid, but he can do it. Laporta here, semi-elite tight end. That works. Laporta, 1 pick. Jerry Jeudy, just not a click I really want to make ever. Jordan Addison, I'm okay to absorb. Ricky Pearsall, still an okay click. And Montgomery, not a bad click. I am going to go Addison here, though. Try to get some theoretical leverage on Justin Jefferson because we are a Jamar Chase team. And Addison, again, I'm not worried about the suspension. Don't think it's going to be 4 games at this point because of him doing the right things. So we get 4 receivers here. We got Chase Brown, Bucky Irving alongside Jamar Chase, Cortland Sutton, Jameson Williams, Jordan Addison, Sam Laporta as our tight end. And we will see what we get at QB at this point. Obviously, would think this could be a Detroit team. Would have thought it would be a fine Cincinnati team as well. But this guy needed Joe Burrow and Jaden Daniels. Reason, by the way, and this is like compounding the error, he also reached for Ekbuka here. I don't know if Tej is in the chat, but I think the Gibbs-Taylor start is fun enough, I guess. I don't think you need to go for Gibbs at 2, but that's a fun team. Higgins here, getting Jaden as a nice value, fine enough. But he's now got Ekbuka, who I guess you could assume starts the year fast if Godwin's hurt. Rashee Rice, who's not going to be starting the year at all. But I really don't think you should assume Ekbuka starts the year hot because he's a rookie. That just doesn't happen too often. Unless they have absolutely clear runway, and Ekbuka does not have absolutely clear runway. And then he compounds the error by taking double elite QB. Just not the smartest move for him, and it obviously directly hurt me, but doesn't matter. I just don't like. If you're taking Rashee Rice and then reaching for Ekbuka, I think it's really greatly compounding the error. I think it's possible to do it and have the team still be okay. But again, the Rashee Rice total points format just kind of shows you're lacking the understanding of how to score points here. More power to him. Don't think Monty's production dips that much this year. Those goal line steals will be just as nice as they were last year. I mean, look, the big bet, and I think that kind of makes it more appealing for Montgomery this year. There's been a lot of moving Gibbs around the formation so far in training camp, and that doesn't always work out. Like a couple of years ago when Dallas had signed Tony Pollard to that one pretty decent contract, there was reports where it's like, oh, Tony Pollard's playing out of the slot this year, and people were like, oh man, what an awesome click. And it's like, I was not in on Pollard that year. Thought that his year that he was great in best ball was a little bit overinflated too, and the back half of the season kind of saw him fall off the cliff. Those bets ended up being correct for the most part. But the reason that people get stoked about the guys moving around is oh, he's going to become a better receiver. But in reality, you could also be moving the guy away from what his most useful abilities are, which is just being a running back, getting that volume there, getting the work in the backfield. So if Gibbs is going to be cleared out at all running routes, I think that's a positive for Montgomery. And I like Montgomery to get him out. I think he's more to me, not a zero RB back necessarily, but he's a guy that fleshes out a room pretty well as your RB2, RB3. If you are doing a zero RB build, probably want to start a little bit earlier than him, I think, in 2025, but you still can have him be your lead back in a zero RB build and feel like you're going to get, good contingent value no matter what if Gibbs gets hurt. But on top of that, you got a 10 to 15 touch roll anyway with, what did he get in the red zone last year? If I had to guess, 3 a game. David Mont. You got 3.5 red zone rushes a game, not enough red zone targets to qualify. And he had an 18% avoided tackle rate, which I think people view David Montgomery as being this no juice kind of Nick Chubb adjacent back. He's still got juice. I like Montgomery. Long-winded way to say that I agree. I like Montgomery. But I certainly get why he goes so much behind Gibbs, because Gibbs is like a special creature who's going to be used in a much different way. But they frankly, they both can get there. The defense should be better this year as well, which I would think could benefit Montgomery more. But they used Gibbs enough in the red zone last year that they probably both benefit equally from the defense being better. Now let's see what the brain trust next to me here picks. Hawkinson goes 93. Not nice click for this guy. This guy died to absorb the Joe Mixon value, even though he desperately needs receivers. But that's okay. Bo Nix here. Want to do a Denver bet, and I can do that. Is Jared Goff going to come all the way back? Think he should. And I'm willing to try it. We've got the Denver bet now. So I could take Kelsey if I really want to load up a tight end, but I am going to go J.K. Dobbins here. RB3 J.K. Dobbins with a bet on Denver via Courtland Sutton and Bo Nix, I think makes sense. So Dobbins RB3. I still like Dobbins a good amount at this price tag, though. Top 100 feels a little bit rich, but RB's been bled out enough here. I can live with it. RJ Harvey's certainly working in with the first team already. He can be a viable player, I think, for sure. But Dobbins is out there with the first team. I do think he ends up being your red zone back. And frankly, for RJ Harvey, I'm just not sold he's special. Is really the main thing for me. He's got enough draft capital that I get why people take him where they do. But, you know, 5'9", 205 pounds with only a 21% avoided tackle rate at UCF. I don't see it like everybody else does. I get he has great athletic testing and he's a second round pick. So, but I'd rather go Dobbins' way relative to ADPs. The team so far, we got Bo Nix at QB. At RB, Chase Brown, Bucky Irving, J.K. Dobbins. At receiver, Jamar Chase, Courtland Sutton, Jamison Williams, Jordan Addison, and Sam Laporta. And then hopefully we get Goff back. But if not, I don't know. I'm sure the guy in front of me will go, I could really use Jared Goff. And that'll be it. Because you got to get Jared Goff on your Jaden Daniels, Joe Burrow teams. But I'm happy with the team so far. I think in particular for drafters, where you're taking, for me, taking Chase Brown and Bucky Irving in the first 3 rounds. I think the receiver room is good enough here, especially if I'm not going to be worried about Addison suspension stuff with Chase Sutton, J-Mo, and Jordan Addison. So I like my top 4 enough, even though would have liked to have gotten pick 5 somewhere around here, or wide receiver 5. But guys, if you got any value of this video, please do show some love. Subscribe down below. Hit the like button. Leave a comment. It all goes a long way for me here. Just one guy showing you my gambling here in the world of best ball. And soon, NFL DFS. Soon on the Splash Play Bets channel, NBA DFS as well. The cycle is starting again. Feels like the cycle just ended. But no, it is in fact going on again. So stay tuned here. Lots coming up for me this NFL and NBA season. And hopefully we'll win some money along the way. Even with the injuries and stuff, I still feel really good about my best ball haul. Feel good about my exposures. Look through Best Ball Explorer, great tool for you guys that are, I wouldn't even say new to best ball. You can be a veteran to best ball and not have heard of it. The Best Ball Explorer, it's part of the ETR / the Solver family of products. I've gone through that enough. Like I really don't have a lot of teams that have terribly negative CLV. So that's, I think, a good sign for my portfolio. But I like my teams. I'm just hoping like the injury stuff with getting Mixon hurt, getting Lloyd hurt, getting Justin Fields even hurt for that brief period. Mostly like worried about protecting CLV at this point, which is like a weird way to feel about drafting, I think. We got Jared Goff here. I think he's a good click because we have the 2 Detroit players, obviously. So we're going to make that one right now. 5th receiver would be nice. Tyrone Tracy is a pretty big value at this point. But I am going to go up and get Marvin Mims. Mims, again, my cutoff for a viable wide receiver 5, no matter what platform I'm playing on. But also Hollywood Brown, to me, got hurt today at practice. He got carted off, but in the Chiefs field in particular, I think Mitchell Schwartz, the former offensive lineman, just pointed this out. Basically, you can't get to the medical facility without being in a cart. So Hollywood Brown being carted off doesn't really matter that much. And in general, carts in the preseason don't matter that much anyway, because just a lot of times the practice field is further from the medical facility than it would be in a game. A guy getting carted out in a regular season game is like catastrophic because they should be able to walk to the locker room. in training camp, sometimes you take the cart. But I don't know about Hollywood Brown right now. As a result, I'm not going to click him anyway. Mims made more sense for the team as it is, as you know, no matter what. Shout out Sam. Appreciate the good stuff fact. I appreciate you not even using the shit. You didn't even curse. But I appreciate that, Sam. Appreciate all you guys watching live. And again, show some love. Hit that like button. Subscribe. You guys know the deal here. You'll see my gambling here down the home stretch. We'll have some more volume of streams as well in August too. But definitely try Draftalons Tuesdays and Fridays. It'll be my main value add for you guys. And I've budgeted accordingly to make sure I can get as many on these tournaments. Oh my God. You're going to get to 50 on the DK Million, 50 on Drafters, it looks like, with the math I've been doing, in addition to maxing BBM with the 49 entries I have left in Best Ball Mania. Too many best ball teams to draft. Been trying real hard to not just mindlessly do Best Ball Mania teams at this point, because I do want to benefit from like the August window of knowing all the news and having a good read on who's, you know, even got a shot to be the Puka Nacua, the, you know, Kyron Williams of a couple years ago. At this point, it's like your late guys that are like surging are your Dante Thornton types. And it's like, I don't think he's a bad prospect. Like him, Isaac Tesla, not really doing a lot for me. Not really those fun priority clicks at this stage of things that we know. And I'm hoping that by the end of August, we'll know a little bit more. But really your biggest benefit to not maxing these tournaments out right now is what I talked about with like losing CLV on various guys like Mixon, like Mooney, I think in particular the ones like Marshawn Lloyd. I guess that doesn't matter too much for a last round pick. Those guys now for this next month are going to be going so much cheaper. And you want to be able to know that and be able to get these guys accordingly in some of your best teams. So, you know, that's sort of it's the way it looks for me. Any players you plan on ramping up your exposure to in the final run? Jacobs and Savion. Why Savion? Not Savion for me. But Jacobs I should take more of because I have taken RB a lot in this range. And again, Jacobs like getting over 4 red zone rushes a game is not something I had in my brain. I knew he had a good role, but like that's a number to me that is a benchmark that matters a good amount in terms of how I view things. So I should probably get more Josh Jacobs. It's just hard for me at this point. Like Jacobs went 22 here. I would straight up rather have Bucky Irving, rather straight up have Chase Brown. So that's sort of what my main concern point is that I still don't love Jacobs relatively, but he's one I probably should get more of. But I don't have any priorities like that. I guess like what I'm mostly concerned about at this stage of things, Pat Bryant at 141. He's been going higher on Drafters this entire time, but that's fucking insane. The Pat Bryant ADP on Drafters has been one of the most baffling things to me. He makes no sense for a total points format either. And he's still carrying a 152 ADP. Why? Why? I don't see it at all with Pat Bryant. For year one, I don't see it. Anyway, let me make my picks here. Looking like an RB spot based on the board. But yeah, my issue with Josh Jacobs is just that like I like the other guys in that range more, but I should take more of him. But in general, I like the guys I'm mostly prioritizing are guys I just want to make sure I get 16% of. So you need to prioritize more like Jaden stuff, ideally. I've been taking Tootin more on the downswing because I have enough tank and enough ATN at this point. We got Ray Davis here, about 10 spots after ADP. I can do that. Quinshon Judkins here, just still not really a click I want to make. Third QB. Not really something I want to do either. God, wide receiver has been bled the fuck out. I'm going to go Jake Ferguson tight end too. I just don't want to go reaching like crazy for Jalen McMillan, who falls more than enough. Thielen, Wandale, those guys are all okay clicks, but I'll starve myself at receiver this go round. We go Ray Davis and Jake Ferguson. Team so far is Knicks and Jared Goff. At RB, Chase Brown, Bucky Irving, strong top 2. Then J.K. Dobbins, Ray Davis. I think those guys are totally fine. Don't know how much value they're adding necessarily to the room, but they flesh it out. Jamar Chase, Cortland Sutton, not Chase Sutton. Too many guys named Chase. Cortland Sutton, Jamison Williams, Jordan Addison, Marvin Mims, and then tight end Sam Laporta and the newly paid Jake Ferguson. Doesn't matter that I don't get why he got paid. The fact that he got paid is still noteworthy enough to start taking him a bit more. So I kind of thought he was going to be on the way out. We like to see you do single entries on DK, your best pick in each round, as opposed to playing the draft game. Be fun. I have not done anything besides the play action and the main tournament on DraftKings. I still have to max the play action, but I'm waiting until that's a little bit closer to the season and probably do it via slows. I've really done much single entries. It's just for me, mostly choosing my bankroll stuff because I need to make sure I have enough to get through NFL season as well. So putting in, putting in like 6K in best ball entries is a lot. It's enough for me. I do try to do some of the ones that Michael Dubner points out on Twitter as having particularly high tournament scores, because I think that's one metric that I do trust in terms of like which tournaments are valuable. But even then, it's like Underdog this week put out the whatever 100 entry tournament. And I was like, I don't want to do another 100 entry one for 20K to first. So I'm mostly just trying to bide my time for tournaments that are like ideally 50K at least up top. Because like the biggest thing for me, and I think for most of you guys out there, is preserving your sanity in August and not having too many. Part of why I got ahead of the BBM entries this year was that I just wanted to not have to do 100 in August is really the main goal. I'm just trying to kind of cruise to the home stretch for myself while getting enough entries in all the tournaments I want to hit. Could see a world where Savion getting some what? No, that's not what. Why would Savion Williams get carries in the backfield? He's enormous. Dude, that's like the most wish-casted thing. And I love you, Chunk. It's one of the most wish-casted things I've ever heard in my life. Like, okay, let's hold on. Savion Williams. He's 6'4", 220. And you want him to get carries out of the backfield? What world does that happen? You can't just say stuff. Like, you can't hope that somebody else is going to. Who else is getting the carries? Josh Jacobs is getting the carries. Fucking Emmanuel Wilson, who they trusted last year. Chris Brooks is, I think, still on the team. These guys that got the carries last year are going to get the carries. If they want to give carries to receiver, Jaden Reed makes a lot more sense. Matthew Golden even makes more sense. Savion Williams is like a giant X receiver. Wan'Dale Robinson is here. I think he fits for wide receiver 6. God, receiver. Jack Besh, I will say, Drafters has let Jack Besh fall to where he should. So more power to them on that. Najee Harris still here, 20 picks after ADP. Jalen Wright, Braylon Allen here. Zach Ertz for week 17 correlation with Dallas. I'm going to go Braylon Allen. Boy, I barely got that click in, huh? Braylon Allen, RB5. Just didn't really want to go and reach again at wide receiver. I'm okay getting Wan'Dale Robinson a little after ADP. He's banged up in camp. Doesn't really matter that much. He's actually had a pretty good camp so far and getting more deep downfield targets than I would have thought based on his kind of slot-heavy check-down role. It's been there for a few years in New York. And really do think as well, if Neighbors is hurt at all, Wan'Dale Robinson might end up absorbing the Malik Neighbors role, whether that matters for, over the course of a season, whether that matters for pods in terms of your Underdog and DraftKings playoff stuff. I think Wan'Dale is a pick that I want to get a lot more of down the home stretch. That's one guy, actually. Want to get more of down the home stretch because I think he's got a couple outs being useful. And the Giants offense from the training camp stuff so far kind of seems fun. Like I thought they would be, but I think they have some potential here to get the ball downfield and be a little bit shootouty. That's how I feel about Wan'Dale at this point. The team so far, we got Nixon, Goff at RB, Chase Brown, Bucky Irving, J.K. Dobbins, Ray Davis, Braylon Allen. At receiver, Jamar Chase, Cortland Sutton, Jamison Williams, Jordan Addison, Marvin Mims, then Wan'Dale Robinson here is wide receiver 6. And at tight end, Sam Laporta, Jake Ferguson. So everything's stacked up and correlated, at least a double stack for our QBs. Feeling good about the RB room. I think we're just kind of in luxury mode here for our last 5 picks. But definitely I wanted to dedicate some attention to receiver because receiver is definitely the weakest room out of the group, I think. Thank you for doing the Tim Robinson for me saying you can't do that with Savion. It's just like, it's not something that will happen is really the main thing. He averaged 6 yards a carry and 6 TDs, limited touches in college. He gave Reed. I think that's a really bad assumption. I don't think that's how the pros work normally. College stuff, like things like that happening, whatever. but it's like you're normally going to be a slot guy if you're going to get carries. You're not going to be an outside guy. Sometimes teams try to get your Jeffersons and CeeDee Lambs the ball out of the backfield, but like Savion's not going to be that tier of player at the very least, even if you love them in year one. Savion to me is like one of those guys that was so wildly unimpressive in college that trying to project him to do anything, I think, is a stretch. But he's also like behind everybody right now. So like, it's crazy to me to think that a guy is who's not really in the rotation right now. Like he's behind Golden, he's behind Reed, he's behind Dobbs, he's behind Wicks. Wicks is banged up. Maybe they'll give him a shot to move up, but it's not likely to happen. Christian Watson's ahead of recovery apparently, and I don't think that necessarily matters, but that's another thing that could keep Savion from getting on the field. So you have all these guys in front of him, and you think they're going to scheme a package for him to get carries? This is not how that works. So I think, and if it did happen, it'd be like one carry. And like, even if the best possible outcome, they're like, this guy was electric with the ball. Like, let's get in the ball. They're going to scheme him like Mims, and he'll get 5 routes a game and then maybe get a touch on 2 of them. And that'd be crazy because he's getting a 40% touch rate then when he's on the field, which is like elite, but what does it matter? What does it do for you? So in a 20-round draft, if you want to take him, you can go nuts. But I think that's insane to like, just not usually how football roster building works is what I would say. I know football scheming works. It's not really how that works. But your guess is as valid as mine. Again, I love you, Chunk. Just think that you're stretching your imagination a little bit there. Singing the imagination song. Imagination. Now you're end up in imagination land, and all of a sudden, Savion Williams is getting 5 carries a game. We got to watch out for the acts of terrorism in imagination land. We got Keenan Allen here. Again, propping up a receiver room. That's what Keenan Allen's good for. We'll take him. Everything else here looking pretty dog shitty. So let's go Justice Hill as RB6. So we've got our 7th receiver, our 6th RB. 3rd QB is not going to happen in this build. So Bo Nix, Jared Goff. Got Chase Brown, Bucky Irving, J.K. Dobbins, Ray Davis, Braylon Allen, Justice Hill. We got Jamar Chase, Cortland Sutton, Jamison Williams, Jordan Addison, Marvin Mims, Wan'Dale Robinson, and Keenan Allen. So you round out the receiver room. Again, if Keenan Allen is available in round 17, round 18, I am still going to keep picking him. And technically took him in round 16 here, but it's the same fucking thing. And a tight end, Sam Laporta, Jake Ferguson. I don't know. I probably could take a 3rd tight end as well, but I got 3 picks left, and we'll see what they end up being. If they were all secure roles ahead of him, I get it. Their number 1 receiver played 40% snaps. You're stretching. You're just stretching. I think, though, still projecting a receiver to get RB carries is not the move, but like people are going to make their bets. Last year, there was a guy in chat who every time would take Kadarius Toney. You guys can make whatever bets you want. I just don't think you want to overload it, but it sounds like you're not doing that anyway. So more power to you. But I think really one of the biggest things that happens in fantasy football on a creator side, in particular the guys that like don't really know what they're talking about and just spouting off on Twitter, but it's like people that don't understand how football teams work and how roster construction works and things like that. Like Savion Williams would have to, like, he might not even be active on game days. Like, pretty decent shot of that because he needs to play special teams. Maybe if he's this great of a returner, he will. But like, you don't have a lot of 6'4", 220-pound returners out there. Those are usually guys that get put in that Quentin Johnston role, that Romeo Dobbs role. Like, I think that if you want to tell me Savion Williams could beat out Romeo Dobbs this year, I would probably be skeptical about it because Romeo Dobbs and Jordan Love have a special connection. But like, to say that Savion Williams is going to do something that's not usually his type of, like, what he does as a player, what guys who look like him and play like him, what they normally do, I think you're asking a lot. And I think it's one of the things people fuck up the most is not getting that guys tend to play around the same spectrum of things. Like, I've talked about guys that are, I would say, some of the smartest in the industry, and they're like, Lad McConkey's going to play out wide a bunch. And it's like, no, he's not, because that's not what he's good at. What he's really good at is getting open from the slot. And like, you can move him outside sometimes. But it's like, it's not going to happen because you kind of fall where you're supposed to play, where you're the most effective on. And that tends to find its water, or what that water finds its depth, rather. You're better off assuming that with almost everything in football. And I think really the biggest flaws in projection / player analysis, whatever, player taking even, is when you expect guys to really expand beyond that tree meaningfully. Because so much of it, and it's more pronounced in the NBA, But so much of it is like guys have to find a lesser version of what they think they are to fit in. And, for football, it is often the same thing. It's like, what can I do in the 5 snaps I get? Which I think would really, I think for Savion, that's like, it's like the nut outcome for him is getting 10 snaps a game, 5 snaps a game. I just don't see it. 7 receivers here. Tight end would feel okay at this point. Darren Waller, I still don't mind. Still part of the ramp up for him to not be practicing fully yet. I'm going Waller with one of these picks. I'm going big boy Troy with the other one. Certainly possible that Troy Franklin would go all the way back around on pick 20. But certainly here, getting Franklin here with Sutton, with Mims, that'd be the wide receiver room I'd love to see get the most time, but I don't think it's going to happen. But Troy Franklin still being a deep shot guy. He can spike sometimes. And frankly, I'd rather take Troy Franklin over flavor of the month here, Lambert Smith, who I think Davis Maddock has been hyping up a little bit. If you're going to play preseason DFS this week, I think Lambert Smith can be probably a pretty good click to give a shot on based on how he's playing in camp. But I don't think he's like a legit guy. Better shot to make an active roster with Mike Williams gone. But that's the thing too, is like, you've seen a real drumbeat for Lambert Smith playing well for the Chargers. And I think he's still plus money to like make the active roster. Savion Williams, you've heard no camp buzz about, and like, he'll probably make the roster, I guess, or maybe practice squad. I don't know. That's how I view it at the very least. And Best Tapes was still watching Savion. Dude's a monster. They targeted him a lot, and he wasn't good with it. That's all I could say for how he played last year at TCU. He was way worse than Quentin Johnston in any sort of college metric you could put up for him. Isn't that the argument against Marvin Mims? He is what he is. I mean, for Mims, I guess, but he's also like, he's their returner. He's a smaller guy, so you can move him around the formation. He can get the rushes and stuff because he's built more like a running back. There's not a lot of 6'4" guys that are getting carries in the football game. It's like, Derrick Henry's not even 6'4", like, and he's enormous, right? Derrick Henry's what, 6'2"? Derrick Henry's 6'3" reported, so I would guess probably 6'2". And that's like your biggest guy in football. Anyway, whatever. This is like way too much time to be talking about something really esoteric. I apologize to people that don't care. But I do try to like point out why I feel a certain way, and especially when it's one of our regulars who I think is sharp enough. And again, he's not loading up on him, but I know there's somebody out there that's probably got like 20% of a Savion Williams type, and it's like, you probably are better off not doing that. And I say this is something that I could talk myself into guys I like too. Like Troy Franklin could talk myself into in previous years. Just better off balancing those takes a little bit more. It sounds like Chunk's doing that. I appreciate you too, Chunk. Give me something to talk about here in round 18 through 20. Do you really think you're right that people focus on opportunity and archetype? It's also like, and again, I'm as guilty of this as anybody too. It's like we focus on what we want a guy to be instead of what he's actually going to be. And it's like, if you come in as, again, I'm using NBA again, you come in as like pick 25 in the first round, you're a high usage guy in college, and it's like, you end up being Cam Thomas. It's like you end up being a guy where like nobody wants to pay you because you're not really playing the way you're supposed to play for what they want you to be, which is like a microwave scorer off the bench. You think you're a star. For football, it's the same thing where you expect a guy to come in and be a world beater, and it's like he doesn't really have the draft capital. He's got a ton of bodies ahead of him, and like the team likes him. And whether that's Savion, whether that's Troy Franklin, whether that's whatever, you're just always better off trying to find the middle ground of projecting that, because that's what a projection is, and that's something stochastic. I think really I learned the lesson the most from there is like it's a median projection. It's a middle outcome. Like, what's the middle outcome for any receiver without great draft capital in round 18 through 20? It's not going to be a great projection usually. A good median projection rather. All right, we got last pick coming up here. We got 3 tight ends, 8 receivers. Really don't want for anything at this point. You know what? Here, Chunk. This will be my one share across I might not even having the big board because I just didn't think he graded out that well. Savion Williams, round 20, last pick here, wide receiver 9. So the final team here, we got Bo Nix, Jared Goff. At RB, Chase Brown, Bucky Irving, J.K. Dobbins, Ray Davis, Braylon Allen, and Justice Hill. At receiver, Jamar Chase, Cortland Sutton, Jamison Williams, Jordan Addison, Marvin Mims, Wan'Dale Robinson, Keenan Allen, Troy Franklin, and the new running back for the Green Bay Packers, Savion Williams. It's tight end, Sam Laporta, Jake Ferguson, Darren Waller. See, people say I don't listen to people enough. I don't hear you out enough. I heard, and I took Savion Williams here. It's round 20. What does it do? Now I'm going to load up on him. I'm going to take him in every draft, but there we go. Honestly, as credible of a pick as anybody else here. It's our final team to try Drafthlon today. We did it under 2 hours. This is a land speed record for the try Drafthlon. So I'll be back at 3 p.m. Eastern today on Stochastic to do another DraftKings draft. So come join me on there. Make sure to join the Discord as well. Great place to be right now. Any news item I see, any screenshot I have from an article, I'm immediately putting in the Discord and trying to just give you guys a take on it right away. That's where I think my main value is. I think it's one of my best skills, the content creator and also a gambler. And you get that in the Discord every single day in the football channel. So check it out. $5 to join. To join the YouTube channel, click the link in the description. You get added automatically to the Discord. Make sure to play on Drafters as well. Of course, we'll be drafting a lot on Drafters here throughout the home stretch of the season. But promo code SPLASH at drafters.com or on the Drafters Daily Fantasy app. It's a $100 deposit match. So join the fun on Drafters total points format. The only site you can take Savion Williams on legally, I think. He's barred in any other site, but on Drafters, you can take him around 20 and feel okay about it. But play on Drafters, good site to play on. In particular, if you think you have good football knowledge, you can perform well in bed, you can hop on a Drafters and perform well in bed on there. Gamble responsibly, guys, even though it is always money time here on this channel. Follow me at Chris Spags. Follow the channel at Splash Play Pod. Please subscribe, hit the like button. You guys know the deal. Goes a long way for me here. One guy just showing you my gambling and trying to give you the takes here. And if I'm right, I hope I am. And if not, Savion Williams runs for 1,000,000 yards. I'll see you guys at 3 p.m. on Stochastic. Enjoy your days. Back on Friday here as well. And enjoy your days. Good luck. You guys know the deal. Pray for Marshawn Lloyd. And bye-bye.